Hello, I'm T-Rex. You can call me T-Prescription. And in this video, I'm going to be introducing you to a guy named Chris, also known as Prezafundant. And he's going to be joining us over a call. So here we go.
Hello, citizen. How are you?
How's it going?
It goes. Let me try to adjust my volume here. I can barely hear you. Could you?
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine. You're doing good on my end.
All right. No, I haven't used them. I have my headset plugged into my microphone.
I got
like
you.
a Blue Yeti. Anyway, it has like a little volume knob. I apparently had it turned down like a lot.
All right, so how do you want to do this? Do you want to just jump right into like your policy ideas, or do you want to talk a little bit about yourself? By the way, I guess I could introduce you. This is Chris, or Prezafundant, and he has, I wouldn't call them lofty ideas. I would call them reasonable ideas, but someone who's maybe super centrist would call them lofty ideas. But I feel like sometimes you gotta have some extreme ideas, you know, to get stuff done.
It's so far in the evil, corrupt direction that you kind of need someone a little bit extreme, like extreme good, to kind of swing that pendulum to the other direction. Because it's what's going on in America, everywhere. It's really, it kind of sickens me, depresses me, and yeah. But I'm really, I don't know. I really didn't think too much about, like, we could talk about whatever, but I wasn't really planning on talking about like policy ideas. I know that, like, you know, that's going to be a big thing, but I'm not even like campaigning yet, you know, like.
Well,
like,
I know. I'm just saying, like, your general politics, you know, how you feel about certain stuff, you know, because that right there will open it up to a lot of people that, you know, don't really know anything about you or haven't seen all the footage that I've seen of you and TJ and, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, it was really sad for me to, you know, kind of, I let go of the goddamn podcast. I know you just did the thing a couple days ago talking about your favorite podcasts and shit, and I really enjoyed them too, but like I felt ignored, and, you know, I've been doing a lot of healing this past year, all sorts of shit, like I got a root canal that I needed a root canal for like a whole year before I even got work done on it. I got some new glasses. I got a CPAP machine, to which I never felt better. Like, putting this plastic vagina on my face makes me feel like really, really good. And, you know, so I never thought I could feel good like this, because I was always groggy before I got my CPAP machine, which I'm just starting my third week now, like, using it. So that's amazing. And I'm trying to figure out stuff about myself, because I was gaslit, railroaded, people claiming I have bipolar because I want to run for president, and I enjoy dancing, and those things are just manic. When I was younger, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and you know, I was really distracted when I was getting gaslit and railroaded, and I totally was just thinking, how do I disprove this bipolar shit, instead of just going with stuff that I knew, which was the ADHD. And did you want to jump in?
Well, I was just going to say I can kind of relate, because when I was younger, I wasn't actually diagnosed with ADHD, but I was told that I probably have it by, you know, people, by basically lazy adults. And it was basically, I just wasn't a lazy kid. I maybe wasn't super focused on any one thing. I just wanted to learn about everything and understand all these things, and people just didn't have time for it. So I think that's how just people are in general, you know?
Yeah, well, when I was getting railroaded back in 2012, like, it was amazing. It was just weeks, maybe just a few months into me wanting to run for president, like, you know, and brainstorming ideas. How am I going to do this? You know, there's no rule that says you can't go straight to the top. And then I got sent to Cook County Jail for an untrue hearsay that I shook my fist at my grandmother. And then they put me on antipsychotics in Cook County Jail, like immediately. Like I felt like, you know, there was something more nefarious going on, something maybe fuck my brain up. And back then I was doing the stuff that I'm doing now, like kind of fixing myself. I had quit smoking and I was working out, and I just started an antidepressant because, you know, for a very long time, I'm a pro-science guy, but I don't know why I was very against taking RXs and shit and prescriptions. And there was just a time in my life where I was like, no, I'm going to do it all naturally. And then I just couldn't do it naturally. I just couldn't. And so I started taking some medications to try to help improve myself. And in this process of self-improvement, my life started getting destroyed, and then I experienced all this trauma. I likely have PTSD, but I can't even find a counselor or a psychologist to like chat with. I messaged this whole list on Psychology Today, and I filtered it out with like PTSD and ADHD and my insurance, and there was like 30 some odd results, and only like one of them replied, and I was like hopeful, and I'm like, yeah, you know, and then they neglected to take my case. You know, a few days ago, I think I cried to you about it. Yeah. And because I was really upset because I'm like trying to improve myself here, and I can't even find anybody to fucking like help me out, you know?
Well, it probably takes a lot more than it takes a huge scope of experience when it comes to dealing with PTSD and that type of trauma. And if a person hasn't really experienced that in their life, and all they've experienced is like basically lab stuff where they're just talking about ideas and bouncing ideas around, and they don't have that, they don't know how it actually affects people in reality because it's never happened to them. You know, it's like someone who's never got a speeding ticket and they speed everywhere. It's like, oh, I speed everywhere, why don't you? Well, I drive the normal rate because I've had a couple speeding tickets and I've been in trouble for it. You know what I mean? So they don't have that particular experience, so it's beyond their scope.
Yeah, and she probably made the right decision. This, potential therapist that was going to work with me, but she declined to work with me, and maybe that's for the best. But it really bummed me out because it's like, man, I've been trying to like fix myself for a long time, and in my 20s, I was picked on a lot, like in school and everything, and that's why I have this language thing, because the shit that people used to say to me, they're like, you fucking loser faggot, your parents, wanted to get an abortion and shit, just like the meanest shit.
I had sisters that talked to me like that, so I know how that goes.
Well, that was school, but also my family. My family hasn't, I was punished a lot, with my ADHD. I was just, my family kind of looked at me as the problem child. My father kind of helped out, but, my father wasn't around a lot because he was always working. That's like the most memorable memories I have of my father is like him always working, and so most of my upbringing was done by my mother. And as I have that recording from 2013 of my mom attacking me, so we know, at least I know that, she done fucked up. She didn't really help me realize who I was, and that's something that a parent should do to, their children. And I was very lost. And then I turned into a young adult, and I was still lost then. I met this awesome person that actually showed me an outlet of dancing. Her name is Jessica, and she was actually really into me, and I was really stupid. I was raised Catholic, and because all this bullying and shit that I dealt with at the house and everything, with my family, I just had a lot of self-hatred, and I didn't feel deserving, and I ended up like chasing this chick that was really into me away. But she did show me some cool music. I like my little unpopular, not mainstream music. I enjoyed dancing, and it gave me a way to express myself, to maybe help process my emotions. And I miss dancing very much. Even that was taken from me. I called someone an asshole, and then they roughed me up, and then I got them fired, and then I was no longer allowed at the goth club because I said one word, which is really infuriating, because like I try to be very tame with my stuff. Unless someone pulls a gun on me, then I kind of like lose my shit.
I mean, that's reasonable though.
Yeah, the cops were like, yeah, you shouldn't use the word fag, you know, and call him a bitch. And it's like, dude, like the dude pulled a gun on me, and I really hate confrontation. So, you know, my mind, like I had this whole thing planned out and shit. Like I was going to be like, you got a big penis, you like scaring all the animals. And I didn't get that last part out. And I was just like, you know, just repeatedly like, you got a big penis and shit. So I kind of, my brain got all fucked up when I was, you know, dealing with that confrontation. But yeah. So it's been a weird, long journey. Although I've made a lot of stupid mistakes. I think I've learned a lot, but also this path, this kind of self-destructive path that I took, I wouldn't be on the path that I am now without that major fucking up in my 20s. And I can't say really my 30s, but I like my 30s was like, I was focused on the wrong shit. Like I said earlier, I was focused on like, oh, how do they slap bipolar on me? Now, how do I disprove this? Instead of just going with, well, what do I know? You know, and the ADHD was one thing I know. And I recently learned, I think I did this, been poking around those 16 personality shit. And I think I'm an INFP, but I could be a J, but I think I'm an INFP. And so people want to know who I am, like learning what that kind of personality is you know, what traits they have and shit. You know, if you look into the INFP, you will learn a little bit about me.
Right.
You know, essentially.
Yeah, I've looked into all that stuff to try to figure out who I am, you know, so I can't remember exactly what the range was that I was in, but what I was going to say about that though is there's a lot of things that really go along with that. So in your 20s, so you were basically let out into the world from what you were taught, you know, by your family, your community, your friends, your school teachers, and all that. So basically that's what you knew. And then you get out there and realize everybody's full of shit because nobody really knows anything, and then you have to fix it. And by then there's a lot of tics. Everybody has these things that they do and they're used to and they're comfortable, and then you got to get out of that comfort zone and, you know, learn who you actually are and become the person you are supposed to be. But not a lot of people have that chance at a younger age because their parents, you know, basically pointed them, oh, you gotta go to church every Sunday, you gotta get a college education, you gotta work 25 years, and you know, you gotta have kids when you're in your 20s, and you gotta do all these things by a formula. But they did that and they didn't get anywhere. They kind of failed, you know what I mean? So it's just like, really, why would I want to follow that path? I'm gonna try something different, break the cycle type of thing, you know? And I think that's what a lot more people are doing now, is because we're seeing, it's easier to see now, especially with social media and shareable videos and the internet and all that. You can easily see how a lot of that shit is just bullshit, you know, all the traditions and doing things the way, oh, well, it used to be this way. Well, who cares? Because things have changed. It's different now. Things are faster paced. You got to learn at a different pace. You got to learn new things and all these, you know what I mean? So yeah, taking that initiative to change what's negative in your life to a positive is the first and probably the hardest thing to do ever for anybody. And most people don't choose to do that.
You know, like a new concept to me that I actually started to believe is the most important thing here, because I could say it anyone could say it, but believing it is another thing. And I don't know when it happened. It happened sometime this year. I tripped a few times earlier this year, which helped me out of my negative brain loop I seem to be stuck on. But so the concept is I deserve to feel good. And that seems like a no-brainer probably for most people, but that's kind of a new thing for me. Right. And it probably stems from all that bullshit I dealt with. You know, like I have trauma from getting picked on. I can't even remember the shit, but it probably has affected me. You know, I can't remember every instance I was bullied and beat up or some shit, but but it did affect me. And then my lame family affected me even more. And then, you know, I was raised Catholic, so then, you know, there we go with the self-hate, you know.
Right. And basically all it is you had 20 years of conditioning to not like yourself, and then you realized, well, I have to live in myself, so how the hell do you deal with that? You have to basically change all the way you've been taught to think your entire life, you know?
Yeah, it's a really big blow to have like a 9 or 10 year delay, because being railroaded when I first thought of like running for president, you know, I could have been in a different place, you know, right now had I not been railroaded back then. But, you know, it would have been more productive. But unfortunately, you know,
it could have been it could have been more productive, but also it gave you an insight into how people really are and what you have to deal with to get to that position, though. You know what I'm saying? So it just showed you how much more of a fight you have to get wherever you want to be really in life. You know, a lot of people are basically gifted or win a position because they're born into, you know, a family or whatever or something like that. But there's a lot of people out there that fight and fight and fight until they get exactly what they deserve. You know what I'm saying? And everybody deserves to feel good about themselves and not worry about how people are, you know, what people think about them when they're not really doing, you know, harm on others, or, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody has their own issues, but not everybody deals with them the same way. And just knowing that you have to deal with your issues and taking those steps is much more than a lot of people are willing to even think about, let alone actually do, you know?
Yeah, it just, sorry, I had a brain, I'm having a brain fart. I was going to say something, but I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Hey, I'm a stoner too. I do that shit all the time. I gotta cut big chunks out of my podcast for stuff like that. I'll just sit there with a blank stare. What was I talking about? But whatever.
Pardon. But like policy wise and, you know, things like that, I just like, okay, this past month I've been unplugged a bit, just for my own well-being, and I'm tired of hearing the same nonsense, do nothing, Democrats bully Republicans, and I mean, they're really one and the same, you know, they just call themselves something different. Me being disappointed in people that I looked up to, and it really kind of hurts, you know, when I see Bernie, and even I was hopeful for AOC, you know, and they're down on their knees, sucking the dicks for the people that, you know, the people that shivved Bernie in the back. And AOC apparently was a closeted aristocrat. So, you know, like, that's disappointing. I want to remain poor and go after the corrupt. Yeah, I know that's not like a specific policy idea, but, you know, holding people accountable and upsetting the establishment. I never want to hang out with any elite ever, so I will never be doing anything like AOC did. I think going undercover is my idea to prevent myself from, you know, being corrupt. Just hanging out with the people. I could be anywhere in America, the small security detail. I don't even like cops. That's the real reason why I don't want to announce it. If people want to fucking go with the, hey, you're not going to be using up the community's resources because we need to have, you know, all these cops everywhere, you know, we could go with that reason too. But I don't trust cops. I don't like cops, you know, so small security detail, And maybe a cop harasses the president of the United States, and I'm willing to test that shit out. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's I've had a lot of run-ins with the cops, so I have a lot of issues with them. I mean, I honestly believe that there are some good, virtuous people out there that just want to help out, but there's too few of them because the average person is cynical or jaded and wants power and authority, and a lot of them were bullied too as kids. I know a few that basically specifically became cops because they were bullied, and now they have the power, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's kind of a weird dynamic there. But when someone has that kind of authority, it weirds me out because it's like an unnatural authority. They don't have any extra knowledge or, any real power. It's just that the state says they can get away with or do whatever the fuck they want, basically, and you can't fight against them, really. It's just like, it's like a big corporation. If a corporation shorts you on your check, oh, well, we can't do anything about that. Oh, we'll get you another check, but you have to go to our offices during office hours, which means you're going to have to leave work and lose hours to get the money we already owe you. So you're getting
do it on your free time,
right? And
do it on your free time.
And you shouldn't have to take your own time to do that because they should have paid you the money they owe you in the first place. But what I'm saying is you're getting fucked out of something some way or another. And you literally just can't fight back. What are you going to do? Steal from the company? Then they fire you for stealing, So it's just like, it's just this, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of ways for people to be set up to fail by the systems, that are already in place, especially the authority system and, the work system, so it's.
Yeah, well, it is a setup for failure, but they love that one story, that one out of a million. Hey, this guy was poor, but then he did something. He stole a patent. He maybe made his own patent, and it was all legit. And now he's rich. And then they're like, this could be you, peasants. This could be you. And then they like to repeat that story. And like, I just had some strange couple over during the weekend. There were like this homeless couple roaming around my parking lot, and I decided to like help them out with a shower and some food. And they were talking about like, oh man, I got this idea, and it's like this $1 million idea, and it's going to make so much money. And I'm like, well, just like try having fun with it instead. You don't need to be a millionaire to like, because that's what's sold, I think, to the American people. If you just work hard, you could be like Elon, which I hate all elites, and especially Elon.
Well, I think deep down a lot of that is that it's easy to be in poverty even if you make just enough to get by, because sometimes just enough to get by seems like a lot, but you're still just getting by, like if you have a decent nice house and you and your spouse have a car and you have a couple kids that you're putting through school, that takes a lot of fucking money. I spent nearly $2 million on my daughter in 20 years. You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't sound like, it sounds like a ton, really, when you really think about it, because it really fucking is. So I had to make basically $3 million in 30 years to survive. Over time, that's only that's only 50 grand a year. You know what I'm saying? 60, 70 grand a year after taxes.
I suck at making money. I usually make 10 grand a year or less.
I was a welder and I worked 100 hours a week. So, I mean, there's a huge, I put my nose to the grindstone because that's what I was taught when I was 5, and I was, chipping paint off of houses and helping replant trees at a very young age. So work to me is like, it's a huge part of who I was, but I realized I worked my ass off for literally, I have a decent house and a decent car, and my kid has a decent education. But beyond that, I have a bunch of video games and some movies and shit, but I don't really have time to go on vacations, or I'm not a millionaire, I've spent $3 million in my life, but shit, if a big doctor bill came up, I'd be struggling, you know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of people have that mentality that, it would be so much easier if I were a millionaire, because then I wouldn't have to worry about all this mundanity and all the, the basically the rat race, trying to keep up.
Yeah.
But that is a fantasy to a lot of people because the structure at which to succeed is virtually impossible. Like you said, it's like winning the lottery.
Yeah, well, I mean, the system is so rigged that, like, it just keeps people, like, treading water. Their head is just above water, and I see all these elites and corporations getting tax breaks. I just thought I was watching the Fred Hampton Leftist the other day, yesterday, in fact, and they were talking about, like, the means testing that the Democrats put, on the other stimulus that, people that came inside of somebody or have someone come inside them are going to get. So fuck us single people that don't have kids. Like, I'm all right with not having kids is like one thing, like I think there's enough humans, and I'm not saying like, look, we got to get rid of all these humans and shit. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying it's okay not to have kids. Sex without kids is all right, or no sex, fine, whatever, like people should like be able to live their own lives, you know, and I think that's like, what were you going to say?
Go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
Oh, I think, well, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I never understood how married couples and people with kids got tax breaks and stuff when, well, I didn't understand it as a kid or a younger adult or whatever, but as I got older, I realized all it is a ploy to get more people to work. So if you're having kids, then we'll give you a little tax break because in about 15 years, they're going to be joining they're going to be paying taxes. If they want a car, if they, they're probably going to be working at McDonald's or something, you know what I'm saying? So they're going to get, if you're not providing them, the government with a benefit, why should they provide you with a benefit? You see what I'm saying? It's like a tit for tat, which is bullshit. Oh, we'll give you a tax break because you have a kid. We'll give you a tax break because you're married and you're probably going to make kids for us to join the workforce and pay taxes and be a drone for the rest of it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what it is.
I remembered that thought. Like I was saying, I was watching the Fred Hampton Leftist. I agree with everything that you're saying. Yeah, it's just like they want more peasants for their benefit, and they're going to teach those kids, as they have been for like the past decade or decade and a half, that having two jobs is normal. Then all these kids are raised into a world where, having two jobs and hey, don't worry about owning your own house, just rent, and it's the shift that's, occurring. But I know I don't have a magic wand. There, as in my previous talks, there are things that I can do on my own that will be very easy. And it's like, well, why doesn't Biden? Why doesn't Obama? Why doesn't Trump or whoever? Why don't they do this? It's because they're corrupt pieces of shit. And they but anyway, that thought from watching Fred Hampton Leftist was just like, why don't I advocate at least push for means testing rich people. Elon, are you making more than $22,000 a year? Oh, well then you don't get a tax break. Do the same fucking means testing that they do on the board to them and corporations. Oh, Walmart, are you getting more than $22,000 a year in profits? Look, you're not going to get that tax break. It looks like, and I'll definitely push for that. And sure, I may not win. I may not win the fights. I may not win these battles and shit. All right, but having the fight is very important.
Right, putting it out there where people see that there is the issue going on. That's the main thing, because there's a lot of people that don't pay attention and don't care because it doesn't affect them. They think because they live a comfortable life, or they don't really think about being complacent and, oh, well, I have to work two jobs. I guess that's just the way it is, instead of saying, why the fuck do I have to work two jobs? I work 80 hours a week, This is ridiculous. I don't get to see my kids. I miss out on everything, and life is shit. Why the fuck do they just accept it? That to me, I got to a point a couple years ago where I'm just like, I can't do that anymore,
Yeah. Oh, when I was getting railroaded, I had this taxi driving job that I worked every waking moment. I must have done like 100-hour work weeks often. I worked on my birthday, and I just worked every waking moment. I was homeless then too, and I would sleep in the taxi, find a parking lot, in some grocery stores or some motel to sleep in, wake up and log in and go to work. And I never made it then too, and I'm a very hard worker, but I'm tired of working for nothing. And this last job I had, it took me a while to find a non-asshole employer that wouldn't fire me for reporting like some coworker that wanted to shoot everyone randomly. And then I ended up in jail after getting attacked by some dude abusing his woman. And then I lost my job, and then no lawyer would sue for me. It was, I feel I deserve a house after doing 284 days in jail for hitting someone attacking me one time under their armpit. But that's not how the lawyers that I, was reaching out to. I got referrals from the Colorado bar, some shit. And the referrals didn't mean anything. I just call them up and ask if they would want to work contingency. And it's like, look, I did 284 days in jail, plus, and I got acquitted. Plus, I got a blood clot when I was in jail, and I needed inmates, to help me, to and from the bathroom to get my food, to get to the medical card. I couldn't walk on my right leg at all. It was purple. Holy and I'm shit. Very fortunate, I guess, to have it. But, it was like that for 5 weeks. I literally mailed the judge in my case because I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I was kiting the jail every fucking day. If I was out in the real world, I would have called 911 by now. And they didn't do shit for 5 fucking weeks. And nobody would sue for me. And being kind of emotionally fucked up and everything like that, I get discouraged easily. So after the first, couple dozen lawyers that I tried reaching out to, they all reject me. They're like, it's not that you don't have a case, Chris. It's just we're not going to take it. I get discouraged, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And then I try again a year or two later, and they're like, oh, well, the statute of limitations are, fucking up. It's like, what?
Yeah, I feel like that reminds me of a little parable that I was told when I was young, that no good deed goes unpunished. And it sucks because that's definitely when you have humanity in you and you just want to do the right thing and help people out, and then you get assholes that fuck everything up, and then you get fucked over for it. And it's crazy that type of shit even happens.
Yeah. Oh, dude, what set the dude off to attack me is I let the chick know, the dude was very controlling, so it was hard, almost impossible, unless I wanted to wait outside for the chick to roll up after she got off work. Some loser without a job. And, he had a DUI too, and he would he'd drive around in her car. And he would be drunk sometimes. He's like, Chris, you want to go to the store? And he'll be all drunk and shit. And I'm like, are you sure you don't want me to drive, man? He said, no, I got it. I'm like, oh man, it was just a couple blocks. So I was like, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just go along. But then I noticed the guy that, they were around for a few months and shit. The dude ended up giving me her PIN number because he needed some cash. And it's like, well, why didn't, we were at Walmart and everything. Why didn't you just go buy a stick of gum and get $20 over using her card? Why did you have to do this for me? Why did you give me her PIN? You didn't need to do that. And so I gave her a card that had her PIN number on it. And on the other side of the card, it was a blank card, a blank business card. On the other side of it, I wrote, love with your heart, but use your head for everything else. It's this saying that this one YouTuber, Captain Disillusion, says all the time. I get that from him.
I know.
And I do say it, periodically, randomly, every year. I must say it dozens of times to people. It's not something that I always say. I'm always like, hey, citizen, how are you doing? But anyway, I try to get people to think, and I don't like people that manipulate others and abuse and all that shit. Drives me insane. And being labeled an abuser, I shook my fist at my grandmother, which I never did. I was jabbing my shoulder with gloves on. I have this weird goth style, and anyway. Speaking of my family, is that's another thing. Is I had a straitjacket that I would practice escaping out of, and I would ask my family, could you help me get in it? so I could try to escape out of it. And oh, Chris, oh man, like, what are you doing, Chris? You know, like, they would act all crazy and everything. And it's like, no, like, I'm trying to, like, you know, pick locks and shit and learn escape art. And I didn't even get encouragement for that. I just kind of thought of that randomly just now.
Hey, that's totally relatable. That type of thing happens to just about everybody. You know, I feel like I make music and I'll be like, hey, listen to this. I don't have time for that. And then a year later, it's on the radio and they're like, hey, was that your song on the radio? It's like, I tried to get you to listen to it like a year ago, but whatever, you know, something like that. Or, you know, I went to the Blockbuster video game championships when I was like 6th grade and I was competing with 16-year-olds. And my mom was like, get your uncle to take you. Oh, well, he'll gladly take me, but I just wanted my mom to be there, you know, but whatever. So,
yeah.
So I can totally
those things do stick out.
You know, so I
think like the failures of my parents.
I think
like,
that
sorry, I'm not trying to say you failed. I'm just saying in general, like when your parents like ignore you and shit, it's like that shit sticks out. Like I don't have many memories, but the failures kind of stick out in my head.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a couple times where I did that to my daughter where she had like a in-town game and I'd worked 90 hours that week and I was just exhausted and frustrated and I just didn't want to be there, and her mom would be like, you really should go, and then I'd be an asshole. I would show up, but then I'd be an asshole the whole time, you know what I'm saying? And that was because I think a lot of that was firstly the situation, like I said, exhausted, and that's no real excuse, but also growing up in that same environment where, you know, I have to do this for my kid, you know what I'm saying? It's like, wait a minute, I should have been happy to be there, and I can't apologize enough to my daughter, and she realizes the, you know, shit that I was going through then, and she understood, but just her having to deal with that alone, to me, you know, made me feel like a failure as a parent at that time. So, you know, just a lot of people don't really think about stuff like that, and it's really hard to, especially when you're reflecting about your own self, you know what I'm saying? It's really hard to look inward and say, hey, I really fucked up. And, you know, and that cascades generation after generation after generation. And so a few years ago, I was just like, I have to break this cycle of being this person who I am because it's negatively affecting all aspects of my life, you know? So I had to grow up when I was fucking 15 years into being a grown-up, you know? So it's fucking crazy.
yeah, life is crazy like that. But yeah, I was just watching Game of Thrones. I just finished up all the seasons. And it's what you were saying. Essentially, I was thinking about like breaking the wheel. You know how Daenerys was like, we're going to break the wheel, you know, and break those cycles of you know, failures and you know, try not to. At least you were there for your daughter though. Like, you might have been cranky and everything, but she'll understand. Like I was spanked so much as a child and shit. Like, and I understood that. Like at the time, I was, you know, like upset about it. You know, but now, you know, like, I'm like, okay, well, you know, I did act out and I ended up breaking a window, you know, and you know, I think I deserved a spanking. You know, I'm able to look at that. So I'm sure your daughter will, you know, you know, like, oh, you know, T-Rex, you know, wasn't there for me. Or he was cranky that one day, but she'll, you know, oh, well, he was always working and everything. So, you know, and I understand that shit now because I'm always working too. And sometimes I get cranky. So I don't think she'll hold that against you, like the stuff that you mentioned, you know. I hope not, you know, Jesus.
Oh yeah, she doesn't. We talk a lot. She's very open with me. And I mean, we don't talk as much as I'd like to, but she's got her own life, and, you know, I don't want to be that overbearing dad or whatever. So, but we've always had an open, you know, I've always been like, I'm not going to lie to you as much as I can. You know what I mean? Like, if it's super adult things, I might just not say it around her. But, you know, if she comes and asks me a direct question, I'm not going to lie to her because I was bullshitted my whole entire life by every goddamn adult that I knew. you know, teachers included. And it's like, why the hell can't we just be real with kids? That's why they get out there in life and it just slaps them down and then they can't handle it. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to do that to her. And I mean, I probably didn't do the best job of it, but at least considering her in that situation, you know, where that's a tough
being
thing.
thoughtful.
And I know I'm not the best parent. Actually, her mom is a very tough disciplinarian, and she used to spank her, and I used to have to kind of like, I would give her like 1 or 2 swats, and then I'd get in between and be like, all right, that's enough, because she grew up, well, you really have to discipline a child like that. Well, she's come to understand now that the only time you really need to do that is when the child is literally in danger. They're reaching for an open flame, swat their hand down. You know, something like that. That, you know, there's no real reason to beat a child. I was physically, mentally, emotionally, and sexually abused, and the worst part of it that I got out of it was the actual physical abuse. You know, so all that other stuff, it doesn't sound right. Oh, well, mental abuse, that's horrible. Sexual abuse, that's insane. How do you deal with that? Well, you know, when you're physically striking someone to hurt them, to get them to do what you want them to do, how, you know what I mean? That's negative reinforcement. All that other shit is just manipulation and power dynamics and shit like that. But physically striking someone to cause pain, physical pain, is, you know what I mean? Like, that's the last thing I want to do to anybody, because I know how it feels to have that pain. You know, gone to school with black eyes and saying, oh, I fell down, you know, because I'd get in trouble otherwise, you know. So it's
interesting that we're talking about this, because this is one thing that I think that turned my family against me. Is like one of the worst things I've done in my life, aside from breaking into my high school when I was like 15 years old. I ended up in a high-speed police chase with 31 cops in a helicopter, but my name wasn't in the news articles. But if you search Clarendon Hills around 95, 96, there'll be an article that says 31 cops in a helicopter, and one of the kids' names was James. And then 2 unnamed people, those were the 2 minors. Well, he blew the driver of the vehicle. Like, we were all drunk. There was a woman involved. We did some stupid ass shit, you know, when there's a woman involved sometimes. And he blew a red light in front of a cop and didn't stop until 7 towns later.
Wow.
You know, when we wiped out. And there was, I hopped the fence and shit, and then there was like this light on me, and I thought it was like one of those motion sensing lights and shit. And I'm like trying to look around where this light is coming from. Where's this light? You know, and I look higher, and it's a fucking helicopter, you know, and I'm like, oh shit. I just like walked back to the crowd of police that was starting to gather and shit. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm fucked.
I've never had a situation that big, but I've had some crazy shit go down, so I know how that goes. I've been surrounded.
It's my only felony.
Times, but
like it's a trespassing or destruction of government property or something. One of those 2. They were going to charge me with 2, but my lawyer got it down to 1. So it was one of those 2 felonies. But the records are sealed and shit. But I don't mind being honest about it. I was young and dumb.
Yeah, because everybody fucks up and makes mistakes, or just didn't have the correct guidance to know better, and then they suffer consequences and go, well, I don't want to do that, and I would hope to warn anybody else about that to not do it, you know, because you know better now, and that's part of learning, you know. So I think
people have the right to fuck up.
Right. I mean, obviously, if someone's like out there killing people, then obviously that's, you know, fucking, there's no exceptions for that type of shit. But if you're, you know, out having fun and, you know, an accident happens, you know, like I had a DUI, and it was the stupidest fucking thing. So check this out. This is the dumbest shit. It's my friend's birthday. We go out. It's I left at 11 o'clock because I got off work at like 10 o'clock. So I left at 11 o'clock. So by 1 o'clock, I've had maybe a 6-pack of beer. We've smoked a couple blunts or whatever, and the bar is closing. So they're like, oh, we're going to have a party at our other friend's house. And I know how blowout ragers they have, and it's just an awesome blast the whole time. So I was like, I'm going to go. And they're like, well, we were told that we got to drop you off by your girl. And I was like, all right, well, I'll just meet you there. So they dropped me off. I went inside, grabbed a 6-pack and some more weed, and jumped in her car and drove over there. And then about 4:20 happened in the morning, and she called the friend that we were at her house, and she hands me the phone and is like, hey, your girlfriend wants to talk to you. And she's like, are you coming home? I was like, all right, I'll head out right now. We'll finish this blunt and I'll head out. I get about 6 blocks from my house. I hit some railroad tracks that it's kind of wettish out, and I slide about a half a block into, I was going a little over the speed limit. I was going 40 and a 30. And I hit a power pole sideways and it spun around, and I crushed it. Basically turned a Saturn Ion 2 into it looked like a crushed beer can. And
oh, wow.
It was the only time I had ever drank and drove, and I'll never do it again. You know what I'm saying? It's the dumbest shit that's ever happened to me in my life. And I was honest with them when they got there. I was like, yeah, I've been smoking and drinking, and I went through all the court shit. I spent like $20,000 in fucking fines and damages and repair costs and helping my girlfriend buy another car and all that shit, So it was like the biggest, craziest mistake.
That was her car. Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's $20,000 just gone. You know what I mean? So I basically made every other payment or whatever I could, and she was like 1 or 2 payments away from paying that car off. And then we had a fight with the insurance because it was on a Sunday. We went out on Saturday night, and then it was a Sunday morning, so the crew that fixed the power pole were getting paid double time, so they didn't want to pay that. And it was, you know what I mean? It was just like shit just got out of control, more and more shit that, the more details that you get into it. So
what I was saying earlier, I wanted to jump back really quick, if you wouldn't mind, about the spanking, because I spanked my nephew like 8 or 9 times over the course of 3 days, like 8 or 9 times total. I was like you, I didn't like to spank him, but and my first whack was like something that he giggled at, but I babysat my nephew, and I was in my early 20s and everything. I was watching my nephew, and that, my family didn't like me spanking my nephew, and then I'm like, okay, well, I guess I just won't babysit then, and so that's the only thing I could kind of think, because from there it was a few years before I started calling up my family to ask about, or it was a few years before they got the storage units, that they were just going to temporarily need, my grandmother to just temporarily pay for it. And then years went by, and then it's like, okay, well, now you guys have spent like 10 grand having grandma pay for your storage units. You could have bought all new shit with that shit. What the fuck? You keep on jerking us off. You keep jerking her off, with the fucking, next weekend, and then next weekend turned into next month, and then next month turned into silent for months. And then, after being nice about the shit for so long, I'm like, what, I'm going to stop being a dick about it, because apparently being nice ain't fucking, getting anything done. So I'm like, I'm going to start throwing shit away. How about that? And when I stayed with my grandmother, she had a condo with a 2-car garage, and I could barely fit. I had a Buick Century at the time, and I barely fit. You couldn't open the doors. There was just enough space for the vehicle, and I had cleared just enough space for the vehicle, because it was all full of their shit. So they had these 2 storage units, and the garage was full of shit. I had to climb in and out of my car window to get in and out of my car and shit. Yeah, it's just after asking nicely for years, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to just start threatening to throw shit away, to try to get them to do something, because you're taking advantage of grandmother. Grandmother has this suffering complex to her, where shit is breaking around the condo and we need to fix it, but we don't have money, because every fucking month, the only time you guys talk to grandma is when you need fucking money, and or you need, her to pay the bill. You need to remind her to pay the storage unit bill and shit like that. And it's just take care of your stuff. God, what the fuck's wrong? And I mainly put a lot of that on my mom, but my brother and sister could have, maybe stepped up. But again, I'm an evil son of a bitch. I done spanked someone. You could raise it to a nice round 10 times because maybe I'm misremembering. So, I spanked someone 10 times over the course of 3 days. I'm a monster now. There's no coming back from that.
Right, but there's...
and I mentioned... Oh,
I was
sorry.
just going to interject one thing. It's one thing... Okay, kids going crazy, just uncontrollable. You grab them up, swat them on their butt once or twice, and then they go for 10 minutes and everything's okay for a few hours. I can understand that because I've seen that happen and it's happened to me, and I can understand that to an extent. But I know people out there that go grab a belt, they grab a switch, they grab a tennis shoe. That's happened to me.
Oh, I had the pizza paddle. That they broke twice on my ass, my parents.
Yeah, we had a ping pong table, but we couldn't play ping pong ever because they were always broken on my ass, the paddles. Yeah. So I know.
Oh, yeah, mine was like 3 times bigger.
Because I've swatted my daughter probably at least 3 or 4 times when she was super young, and she tells me, I don't remember that, but I remember Mom whipping my ass. And I was like, well, I think it was because when I would do it, it wasn't like traumatizing. It was less traumatizing because, you should know better not to reach for an open flame on the stove. That's why I swatted your hand. You understand that? After she calms down, and then, I get it, that type of thing. But if the kid's just out of control, just belligerent, what can you do? I kind of understand that.
The only tools that I got was like my sister was like, just like pick up the landline phone. Now we don't have landline service, but just pretend to call me, and let him know that he's going to be in trouble. And that it was the only fucking thing that they gave him. And they made sure to mention to him that I wasn't allowed to spank him because he threw that in my face. Because my sister, spanked me, and maybe I'm misremembering, maybe there was more, but I remember 2 of her boyfriends spanking me too. And my mom spanked me, my dad spanked me, my grandparents spanked me. I don't remember my aunt or my grandma. It's just like my grandpa. Yeah. But like everybody fucking spanked me. So if you're gonna fucking, come at me with this fucking,
right.
10 fucking spankings, go fuck yourself. But I do realize there was a mistake, I guess, but it's not like I go randomly around spanking kids and shit. Like, I'm like, do you want to go to your room or do you want a spanking? And he's like, I want a spanking. And I'm like, well, shit, now I need to give it to him.
I would have sent him to his room and be like, next time you'll get a spank or something like that. I don't know. I
wasn't experienced with kids. I don't like hate kids or anything
kids
like that.
Wild,
it's just
dude.
like I'm just not experienced.
They're unexplainable. They're so smart, but they're so dumb. And they're like, kids are just people. You know what I'm saying? We're all fucking wild, out of our mind, out of control motherfuckers. But we all have to be put in our place eventually, because we can't just be wild assholes. You know what I'm saying? Because if everybody was a wild asshole, society would just fucking be fucked. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Sometimes,
unfortunately, the wild assholes are the ones fucking in positions of leadership and shit.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of them really put in that time. Like they took all their energy and time and focused it to get to where they were. And a lot of them, I'm not saying they actually deserve it, but for the effort, who else is doing what they're doing? You know what I'm saying? So it makes sense that they're. Well,
they do it for
sociopath to do a lot of shit.
They're doing it to cash in, though. They're like, I'm going to get this sweet speaking gig or whatever afterwards. Like, I had some woman. I was at the pot shop and I was talking, bitching about Obama doing his 400,000, 500,000 speaking fee bullshit, and I was like, that's corruption right there. Right. And she's like, he does. There was this woman, and she was a black woman, and she turned around. She's like, he deserves that. You know, and it's like what he deserves to be corrupt.
Why doesn't he donate 90% of that to local charities every time he speaks, and that would help out communities, and that would get people to want him to actually speak. And then he's making $100,000 or $50,000 a day or whatever, and the community's making $500,000 toward their homeless shelters or boy and girls clubs or whatever, you know, that type of shit. So, but
I could buy so much weed with like $5,000.
Holy shit, you could,
and then give the rest of it away.
Yeah, you know, like it's just so many. I don't have many needs. Be done, but people are so selfish. They don't think about the community aspect of how much it would help for, you know, hey, I'll pay your $500,000 fee, but I'm gonna donate 450 of it to, you know, the local civic center that's falling apart, or the school that's hasn't been renovated in 25 years or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
This is reminding me of Elon's bullshit. Did you hear that? Like, well, I just saw the headline and everything. Fucking like Elon is wanting to donate $6 billion to the UN, but he's asking them to figure it out. You know, and it's like that's you know, well, it's PR really, because he's gotten more, I think more than twice as rich. He's gotten like over $150 billion richer just like during this pandemic. And $6 billion ain't nothing to him. Six billion out of that 150. He's like, oh well, it looks like the peasants are like, you know, like protesting too much and everything. How about I do this like you know, $6 billion to feed you know?
Oh yeah,
you guys figure it out. I'm not going to fucking.
I saw that. If it only costs $6 billion to cure world hunger, could you guys figure it out or something like that? Yeah,
but I thought Elon, you're such a brilliant dude, man. I thought like you're a genius. You're supposed to like have a solution or a suggestion, right? You know, like I'm suggesting ideas at least like when I get around to them, and I'm not talking about my life or some shit.
Well,
but like hanging out with people is like a way to remain uncorrupted, like just normal people. I'm not talking about elite. I want to hang out like with any non-elite. Is my idea. Is the thinking there.
I lost my train of thought. I had something pertinent to say, but
sorry,
I'm stoner brained right now.
I wanted to finish my thought so I didn't like lose it. Well, anyway, so I might as well speak about the other memorable wrong thing I've done in my life. I was like 15, you know, going to 15, 16. It was around the time I broke into my high school. But actually, I was probably 14 at the time. I think it was right before then. I think it was the year prior. I was sophomore. And anyway, I wrote a chick a note, you know, and I was just like, hey, do you want to like hang out and fuck? Or I think I said like have sex. You know, and I got into a lot of trouble for that too. Like the dean got involved, and they're like, "This is sexual harassment." But when I really think about it, like you know, I think back on it and everything, and it's like, so I was asking permission to have sex. Like I don't, you know, I like small talk kind of bores me and everything.
In 2020 and beyond, a lot of women would be like, "Yeah, that's kind of a contract, so sure." You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's kind of.
I mean, it's like one of those things that I remember being punished for, and it's probably why, like, I didn't fuck this chick that wanted to fuck me. I was just so fucked up in my head back in the day, and I was so stupid. And that was probably one thing that made me so stupid. But it wasn't just one thing. It was like 5,000 things, you know. But that was just one of them. But yeah, I think back on it, and it's like, oh no, I asked someone, you know, to permission to have sex. Oh no, like maybe I should have moved on them like a bitch or some shit, or asked the kids to rub my leg hairs or some creepy shit.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like being direct. Being direct is bad for some reason. I don't understand that. It's like the whole like asking a woman for coffee type shit. Like, you want to go out for coffee is kind of like a beggary and shit. But it's like, well, if you're direct to them, then you're going to get a reaction that's the opposite of what you want. So you kind of have to be like that. But now asking a woman for coffee is the same as if you just handed her a note that said you want to fuck. You know what I'm saying? So it's fucking weird.
It's weird. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get that social shit, you know, like there's some things I don't get. And that's definitely one of them. Like, I got to do this little dance, you know, I got to fucking, you know, say a bunch of small talk shit, you know, and then work up to maybe like some medium talk stuff. And then I could get into the larger, like, you want to get some coffee?
Yeah.
You know, but I can't still say sex or whatever, you know, or unless the woman says it or some shit.
You don't have to be
But I ended
vulgar.
up like dating her a few years later. I ended up dating her and like fucking her like a couple years later.
It's crazy how that type of stuff comes around. You know what I'm saying? It's how those coincidences type things happen. You know. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I'm definitely not smoking.
I'm halfway through a fatty right now. Earlier I had some hash, man. Whew.
Yeah, so I mean, I was thinking, like, I just won the Section 8 lottery, and I'm like trying to decide where to go because we give you 60 days, and I got it on October 18th, so I have till December 18th, but I can get 30-day extensions and whatnot. And this kind of disheartening thing that I've been going through this year is just like, look, I had to pay for 2 interactions. This is the only interaction I didn't pay for, so thank you so much, citizen, because I just can't afford, you know, to, you know, pay someone for their attention. I just want to have good chats. And that's the thing. Just recently I've been learning about INFPs, like my personality type and shit like that. And it's like, and that's been my argument for quite some time. Like I called the Atheist Experience long ago, and I just wanted to have a good, interesting chit chat. I definitely wanted to bring up what they thought of the first atheist president, although I'm not into all that identity politics shit. But I guess we later learned back in, you know, 4 years later, we did really have our truly first atheist president, and how'd that turn out? You know, I mean, he was raised a monster. So, I recently stopped, you know, watching the Vanguard.
Were you talking about Trump? Or were you talking about Obama?
Yeah.
Because I think even though Obama did like the religious stuff, I don't think he was a believer. Really.
No, he consistently went to like a Christian church, or at least that's what.
But I did too until I was
said.
15, and I didn't believe that shit after I was like 7. So you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and the only reason I got out of that shit is because I'm never gonna be a politician. I didn't consider myself wanting to be an upstanding person, you know, citizen or whatever in the community, or you know.
He does it probably for appearances. He does it because he's playing the political game.
Yeah, I think that's all it is. And I think Biden though is the opposite. I think he's like drunk with that fucking Catholicism bullshit. So whatever.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, Biden is so weird and so fucked up, and I can't believe these fucking old retards are our fucking, you know, options. You know, not to, I do use the R word, but I wouldn't call a handicapped person that. I'll just call them a person or something. You know, but I call myself a retard. Like, I was so retarded in my 20s. Oh my God. Like, the amount of, the stupid things that I've done and the reasons why I did them, I have auditory processing disorder. If I don't hear someone like clearly, like nearly 100%, if it's like 90% clear or 80% clear, I will mishear you. I will mishear what you're saying. I may ask you to repeat yourself. And in a dance club, this is why, like, I went to, Jessica showed me Neo, this awesome club in Chicago, this goth club. And I hated talking with people in the club because I couldn't understand them. And this chick that kind of digged me, that was starting to talk to me as I was trying to catch my breath because I was recovering from, like, you know, a round of dancing. And the music is so loud, and I'm always like, what, huh? And then a pleasurable silent experience turns into an unpleasant trying to talk to one another experience. You know, on top of the self-hatred that I had, there was I had many opportunities. And Jessica was by far the most interesting because we got into all sorts of interesting conversations. Like, she brought up America's history, like the CIA overthrowing governments and everything. And that was really fascinating to me. And when I look back on those memories and everything, our little chit chats, very fascinating conversations, but also like I have ADHD and this auditory processing disorder. So kind of combining that with the INFP personality kind of makes up who I am. And I've just recently learned all this. And it's, like I said, it's good to know because, like in the future when I go to a club and it's really kind of noisy, I don't like big crowds. I always went on a Sunday and Wednesday night, which at Neo was kind of like slow nights. And it gave me room to dance because if everybody is shoulder to shoulder on the dance floor, I ain't going to have a fun time because I need a 5-foot radius around me. I'm like a little ballerina or something. I need some room.
I'm playing over here.
Yeah, it was my playground. I looked at the dance floor as my playground. Like some hot chick would like start talking to me, and then the DJ would play like a really cool song, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go play. Sorry, baby. Well, I was thinking how to kind of maybe mitigate that in the future, and it sounds weird as hell, but I am a weird person, so I just, I gotta be who I am. And I was thinking about bringing some like small dry erase boards so we could write to each other if we need to talk in like a club in like a really noisy area, so I could, communicate better. Right, and so I was kind of considering that, as a solution. I also made some really fun stuff. I guess I get into it really quickly. During my time dancing, I didn't start off as a good dancer, but I think over the years I turned into a good dancer. I would like bust out knee pads and shit is like how serious I took it. And I would like dance like almost like open to close. Like I wouldn't get there quite on time when they open, but this is Chicago, so we're talking like 10 at night to 4 in the morning, and then on Saturdays they were open to 5. So like, if I wasn't like sick with like the flu or pneumonia or some shit, I was able to pretty much go all night. I would dance until my muscles wouldn't respond anymore, and I like literally had to like crawl or drag myself to like a seat or something and chill out. And I did it all on weed, really. I would sometimes get a Red Bull and vodka, but that shit would be watery and warm by the end of the night, and it would be like 2/3 drunk or halfway drunk or 2/5 drunk. It would be or drank. I made these cool LED dancing gloves, and you could turn these lights on the palm of your hand. You could turn them on and off to the beat of the music. You could change colors with these little switches on the side of the index finger. I put later prototypes, I had put fiber optics on the ends of the LEDs to kind of dampen their light, because I noticed it was kind of like a little flashlight, and sometimes that would shine in someone's face, and I was thoughtful and shit. So I put fiber optics on the LEDs, and I wrapped them around the hand, and I cut them at different lengths. So then, if the back of my hand was facing you, you could still see when I was turning the lights on and shit. Neat. It was deep. And I got this little cyber goth mask. I put like an atheist Scarlet A on one side, and the other side was kind of chaotic because I was trying to not do this uniformity. I did it with the L wire that I mentioned to you a while ago. I'm like, I just want to be able to turn it on and off. And because when I tinkered with it, and I didn't really get into, the 4 chips or whatever was attached to the board there, I never really looked into it. But I just wanted to be able to turn it on and off, because the one that I had, it went on, strobe, and then off. And I didn't want that strobe in there. I just wanted it on and off. I wanted to be able to activate it when I wanted it activated. And I made it look all steampunky too. I got alligator clips, and I put the board all bare on the front of the mask and shit. And then there was these little alligator clips that were, kind of completing the circuit and shit. And I later hooked up an oxygen tank to it. I had like one of those sports oxygen things, like 95% oxygen. And but I never really quite finished that mask, because I needed to trap the oxygen in the mask, because the way I had it designed, the oxygen was just leaking out. and you would barely get any of it, where you needed a more direct, like this oxygen is blowing on your nose and it's not escaping anywhere. I never really got around to it. I got kind of fucked. I have other ideas. I'll mention this one. Doing magic tricks too when I was younger. That was one thing. My dad got me this magic book when I was a young teenager, or maybe even a tween. And I just recently replaced it. I just got another one. It's this Mark Wilson's Complete Course in Magic, and it's the hardcover that's like big, not the tiny, soft cover version. But anyway, so I got flash paper and I colored it black with a black Sharpie, and I would use it in songs at times, like during the climax of a song, and I would like wrap it around my hand. And I had lighters in my hat. Normally, I could just easily grab one out of my hat or hold one in my hand, and I could essentially, turn the lighter on and rotate my hand a little bit and set the flash paper on fire, and there would be this little fire that swirled around my fucking arm and shit, and I made this shit look good. And another badass idea that I never got around to. This is a really advanced idea, but I never got around to this one. But it's still an idea, and I want to put my ideas out there. I got a lot of ideas, and people can take these things and have fun with them. I just had fun making art, and I considered those LED gloves a visual instrument of sorts. These smart materials that uses the Bender Forces walls, kind of like you could stick to a wall like a gecko. The Mythbusters climbed up a wall with one of these weird contraptions that they made. It looked kind of silly, but I was just looking for like 1 or 2 seconds of hang time. Enough material in enough places on the body in such a design that I could kind of peel myself off if I do get stuck. And I never got around to that, but I was always thinking that maybe like 1 or 2 seconds of hang time on a wall would be really fucking cool.
Yeah, that would be weird. Weird to see someone just like whoop, whoop. Like, what? Did he really just? How? What?
Yeah, with a bunch of people doing like drinking and doing drugs and shit, that would look fucking badass, man. During like maybe a silent part of a song, I could like hang there for like 1 or 2 seconds, and then get back on the floor. And yeah, I was creative. I did a thing with glow sticks too. I brought like 80 glow sticks with me at night, which kind of was a little costly, but I would use it like I would be throwing the lights. I wouldn't be like one of those glow stickers with the fucking string attached to it, twirling it around and shit. I would use it to like throw the light, because that was the effect, was to like throw light.
Like a fireball or something.
Yeah. I ended up rolling it a lot just for safety reasons. Every now and then on slow nights and everything, I could throw it overhand, but I ended up rolling it like a grenade or something a lot of times. And then a lot of people would, just randomly pick them up and play with them. Was the unexpected side effect of that. And that was fine. I would reclaim some just to try to save some money and shit, because I'm a poor motherfucker. And reusing, cleaning up my mess and everything, was another part of that exercise, reclaiming them. But I thought it was fun and creative and unique. And that was just kind of like the stuff that, and I would not have ever discovered it if it wasn't for this awesome chick, Jessica. I'm sorry.
It's no biggie. That's actually...
I just swallowed the fly.
That's my youngest sister's name, so it's easy to remember. I haven't seen her in a long time.
Yeah, so that was kind of my dancing years, and it was all taken away from me by other people, as things normally are. Anyway, another thing is, like, it was like a decade before I found someone else that was like into me, and we went on like 4 or 5 dates, and this was that chick that, we went on a few dates, and I got her really drunk, and she punched me in the head as I was driving her home, thinking that I wasn't driving her home when I was. She was a schizophrenic, and so she had some mental health issues, which don't necessarily, deter me. because we all got issues, and as long as you're honest about it, or you're trying to figure something out, or I don't really have a problem with it. And she seemed self-aware, but then she was offering me roadhead like 10 minutes later, and I was like, at that point, I'm like, well, at this point, you can't give consent. We never crossed this bridge before. If we were giving each other blowjobs before this night, I would have definitely accepted.
Right.
But this was our first time, and as our first time, I just couldn't. So I had rejected that offer, which I really, really wanted. Like, right.
That's a hard refusal, but you got to do what you got to do.
And then I mentioned it to her, like, many, many months later, and she's like, I don't even remember that. But what happened was I got, I was sitting in my bedroom with my glasses off, all alone, just chilling with my cat and shit. And then like 4 or 5 fucking pigs stormed my bedroom to give me nightmares the rest of my life. And that's when I got arrested for the untrue hearsay that I shook my fist at someone. And we got into a small fight. We got into, like, not even a fight. We got into, like, an argument. We got into the stupidest argument. I guess you could technically, say it's a fight. And then I disappeared for, like, 2 months, man. And, like, so I'm not even upset at her, because from her perspective, I'm upset at my family for taking that shit away from me. Like, I could not have rebounded from the most mildest of arguments about, I'll just say it, about sex toys. Like, it was like the stupidest fucking thing. And then I disappear. And so from her perspective, she was, understandably like, oh, fuck this guy. He got into a fight with me and then he's not calling me ever. It's like, no, I was in jail and then I was homeless. And then I had checked myself into a mental institute because they wanted me to get a mental health evaluation, which a year later, after almost completing this 1 year of court supervision, the very last court date, or the second to last court date, was like, oh, you didn't get the mental health evaluation that I had gotten and given to my first probation officer, but because there was a miscommunication between him and my new probation officer and the court, I ended up getting fucked. Because they're like, you didn't get that thing that you got. And it's like, oh my God, like my fucking head, like the mind fuck that this thing was. And before this chick was Andrea. And before I met Andrea, I was like, I'm never going to screw it up with a woman again. Like, when I find that woman that's really into me, I'm going to make the effort. I'm not going to be stupid. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to jump on this shit. And then it was taken away from me with forces outside of my control.
Yeah.
And just like the dance club too. Like, I call someone an asshole, I get attacked by the bouncer. Like, I called the bouncer an asshole. His name was Rhino, but I joke around and call him Reno or whatever, just because I have no respect for the douche. And this place with tattoos and people with spiked hair and chains and everything and all these badasses. Oh, I called somebody an asshole.
Wow, yeah.
And well, I think maybe it had something to do with him getting fired, because the other bouncer that wouldn't let me in, Brian, was roommates with him. And he was roommates with him at the time. So maybe there was some more deeper, more personal stuff that I'm unaware of. But still, that shit is shitty. I called someone an asshole and I'm not allowed back. Are you kidding me? Like, just like, and with the shit that I grew up with, it's like this very minor, like very mild. I'm not trying to be a bully, but look, if I think someone's an asshole, I should say it instead of just keeping my mouth shut.
Well, all too often people don't get told they're an asshole when they're being an asshole, so they continue being assholes to people. So they need to,
it gets me beat up a lot, I don't know. So, yeah, I've had all sorts of shit taken from me, and just losing, like, the opportunity with Andrea was just so devastating to me mentally. Because I'm like, man, I'm never going to screw this up again. Then I'm getting fucked for shit I never did, and it's like, man, I'm the only one, like, taking care of my grandmother. What the fuck? Like, you may make fun of it all you want, like, oh, there's this poor guy, he can't afford to live on his own, so he's living with his grandma and he's in his 30s. But, I was taking care of her and I was looking out for her, or at least so I thought. You know, I didn't hang out with her that much just because I'm kind of like a loner. But too much alone time is another thing. Like, you know, being in such isolation with no good conversations is also maddening. There needs to be a nice balance between my alone time, and that's why like it's hard for me to do this president thing, really, because like I really don't want the attention. And here's an idea for you, and you could try to prove it later. But if I ever do win, I'm going to fake my fucking death at the end, because I want to be let the fuck alone. Like, I want to do this shit. I want to do this shit, and I want to fucking get the fuck out. I want to put people on the proper path. I don't want to make a career out of this. That's what really set me off with Vanguard. I sent them a question last month. You know, like they had this little September thing that they did early October. And Zach, at least I think Gavin gives me a chance, but like Zach is like, well, why don't you just start off locally, man? You know, you start off locally and work your way up. I ain't looking to make this career, bitch. I fucking want to just get in and out. There's no rule that says I can't go straight to the top. And although people were making fun of me back in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015 in jail, Trump proved all that shit wrong. You know, like, it's like, yeah, you can go straight to the top. Unfortunately for all of you, he was the corrupter and he was a corrupt piece of shit. But, right. And that's my argument for going straight to the top is I haven't been bogged down and corrupted. I'm a very humble person and I care a lot about people. And I'm starting to learn, you know, some skills, you know, try to help myself along. I'm trying to heal. I've been through a lot. And it looks like the only option I have is self-healing. You know, and yeah, anyway, I'm going to not smoke. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well,
what was it? Cheap prescription. Cheap prescription.
Cheaper. Have you ever thought about maybe trying to get in with somebody and maybe being the advisor as their presidential advisor? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how I can't remember dude's name. He was like, he's a bald guy with glasses. That's all I can really remember about him, other than the fact that he got Bill Clinton in a position where he could win no matter what. You know what I'm saying? And he did all these things that basically, he was basically the president. You know what I'm saying? He was the presidential advisor. I can't think of his name. I'll put it up on the screen if I put this in a video. He basically was running the show, but he never actually was the figurehead like Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton took all the shit from, you know.
Well, I
the impeachment,
you know,
as shit, you know,
as a leader, man, I wouldn't be able to trust anyone else. Like, you know, like I do have trust issues, and would they do the proper job? Like,
well, you would align yourself
like,
with someone who's already 99%, you know, already on your, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but people talk a talk, like, you know, I'm always expecting betrayal, like, and it could come from the closest people, you know, and I totally feel you there. But I'm saying, like, as more of a business partnership, but as a business partnership to create a better future for the rest of the world, really, because everybody really strives to be like the US in a lot of ways. I mean, granted, we have our fucking bullshit, but our lifestyle, our freedoms, our liberties, you know, we have a lot more than a lot of other countries, like our ability to say whatever the fuck we want with consequences, but we can still say whatever the fuck we want. You know what I'm saying? I mean, nobody can really retaliate at you. If you say something, they can't just shoot you dead and get away with it. But, you know, you can say what you want and they could say what they want back. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of countries where you can't do that, where they can go grab you up and you disappear, you know? So
yeah, and that sucks. And that sucks for those countries. And I feel for their citizens in them. And I definitely hate their their leadership, but there are lots of countries that have more freedoms than America.
Oh yeah,
and life is much better, you know. And it's like,
I'm saying, like,
supposedly the richest and greatest. I want us to do better.
I don't believe that we are the best country at all. I was just saying that people perceive us to be that way. So a lot of people want the American lifestyle, which in some aspects is pretty free, because if you don't have to think about everybody else's problems and you just have to deal with your own shit, it's a lot easier for an individual that way. But for a community, it would be a lot easier. They just don't understand that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if everybody helped each other out actually, instead of saying, oh, I give to charity or I help out my family or whatever, if they actually, like, if everybody paid a specific percentage of tax, you know, like 10% on $10,000 is $1,000. That's sounds like a lot of money, but you making $10,000 a year would have benefits that someone making $35,000 or more wouldn't get. But then that would help inflation and all these other things that are happening around us. But people don't think about that, you know, because then companies would be paying in their fair share, and shit would be, they would have excess money in the long run, and they would literally have to start giving it back, because there's a clause in there that says they cannot take in any more money than they can spend in a specific yearly budget. You know what I'm saying? So they either have to find ways to spend that money, which we don't need, or they can put it back into social programs, infrastructure, and shit like that, you know?
Yeah, there needs to be, like, they need to be able to, like, because the way that the laws are written, they spend their budget so they don't lose their budget. And they're really worried about losing their budget, like, permanently, but that it shouldn't be that case. And I don't know why it's that case, because, like, just for the past decades, like, all this money into fucking police and everything, like, what are you guys talking about? Yeah. You guys keep on throwing fucking, like, you know, truckloads of money at them all the time, like, where and all these agencies and these, you know, it's very complex. But yeah, I was thinking, like, on what you were talking about, how we're kind of greedy and a selfish society. That's definitely going to have to be addressed in my first State of the Union. You know, I'm considering the very first sentence, maybe, you know, the State of the Union is jacked. And I need to shame people. There needs to be a little bit of shame for all the American people and all the hate that they have helped perpetuate, or they didn't say anything about. Nobody stood up.
Right, we've all contributed, you know, in some way or another.
Yeah, you know, not to go V for Vendetta on us, but, you know, if you want to look at the guilty parties, you know, look no further than a mirror.
Right. It's sad.
You know,
it's sad to say that a lot of us won't just refuse. They just like, oh, it's not me.
It'll take
I'm
time.
not part of the problem. I only have 5 cars and a mansion, and I have a business, so I help people out. You know, well, do they get 2 or 3 weeks of vacation every year? Are they making enough to get by within a 40-hour work week? Or can they even afford childcare and insurance and all that shit? Are you helping them out with that? Or are you paying them a minimum wage and giving them as little hours as possible so you don't have to give them insurance and shit like that? You know what I mean? So
yeah, I recognize like how Walmart pays their employees shit, and then it's like a double whammy. They get a tax break, Walmart, for paying their employees so little that their employees qualify for more burdens on the taxpayers. Like,
right,
from,
and then,
you know,
everyone else pays for
assistance.
it, and they make the profit. Right, it's crazy.
If what I hear about Costco is true, and they like pay their employees like starting out like around $35,000, and they pay them a decent wage, and these employees don't qualify for government assistance, then they are more deserving of their tax breaks than Walmart is. Like, Walmart fucking, like, I always see the fucking pigs at Walmart every time I go, almost every time, unless it's like super early in the morning or some shit. Like, the cops, like, they have their own parking spot. They push off their security on the community's resources, and that's another way that they're draining the resources here. It's like, you're so fucking wealthy.
The door the whole time, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, why don't you have your security people fucking, you know, like, handle this shit? You're always having the police over here. You could drop them off at the police station, I'm sure. That could be, you know, arranged as crazy as that may seem. I mean, Walmart's like, you know, fucking sending me emails. How do you like your last purchase? And it's like, what? You have my information? Like, you know, they have cameras at the self-checkout lines now that like look up at your face and shit.
Yeah, that may be like if you're using like a credit card or something or a debit card, it might be connected to your address somehow, or I don't fucking know.
Yeah, they got it somehow. I was using my food stamps, nonetheless, you know, like, and they've been maxing us out in Colorado here is one good thing that Colorado is doing. They just like I would get like $30, but because they're just maxing everyone out, I'm getting like 250 now, which is really helpful because I have a lot of things I, have lost and I'm trying to replace them. I know I'm not like a super materialistic person, but having this magic book here helps. You know, being able to buy like playing cards and everything to practice those magic tricks would give me some play time. I like playing with things. I have these flower double sticks that I bought at a bad time, kind of, because it's starting to get cold out. But on the warm days, I intend to, I've been going outside and playing with them and practicing and just playing, really, and yeah, damn, I totally forgot where I was going with all that shit.
We all need a break from the monotony of everyday life, even if you're not working 40 or 80 or 100 hours a week, it's like
people have the right to be lazy. Like people have the right. You have the right to fucking go home, chill, and do fucking nothing. That's like the essence of freedom, like right there. Like you should be able to have some family time, alone time, yourself time, and that's frowned upon too. Like all these things are frowned upon. A few things that we've mentioned, like the social shit and those little social small talk things, and then like this shit here.
Dude, check this out. I worked for 11 years as a welder. I went from working about 50 hours a week to 60 to 70 to 80 to 90, 96 hours a week on average for like...
Jesus Christ.
For about 6 years, I was working 13 days in a row, 1 day off. 13 days in a row, 1 day off. What do you think I did on that 1 day? I slept all fucking day.
Sleep?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, yeah.
And when I was working, I was also working on videos and music and all that stuff. So I'd come home because I couldn't just come home and go right to bed. So I'd come home, work out, eat dinner, and then work until midnight on that stuff. Then wake up at 5 a.m. and go to work for 12 hours, 16 hours, and do that fucking for 6 years straight, and then in a total of 11 years, I worked about almost 20 years worth of what a normal person would work. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I'm, I did decent, but it put such a strain on me that from then on, I got to a point where firstly, I was just broken from it physically, and I was mentally drained from having to deal with all the fucking stress of such a high-paced, hot, sweaty, fucking, extraneous job where I'm climbing shit and scared I'm gonna fall. And
you could get seriously hurt. You could get seriously hurt doing that shit too. Like
6 people died there the first day I started.
Oh, holy fuck!
Yeah,
what the fuck was that? Like a man bear pig come through?
Steam explosion, and they opened a manway, and a steam explosion happened, and it killed one guy instantly, and the other 5 guys took, from hours to days to weeks to finally die off because of their
burn.
Basically they were all burned 100% on their bodies, and I literally walked past.
100%.
I walked past on my orientation earlier that day where it happened, and then the next day I came into work and saw the damage. Was like, I don't know if I want to stay here. I stayed there for 11 years.
Oh fuck!
But
well, you that was a lucky 11.
Well,
I'm sorry that happened to your other coworkers.
I saw someone lose.
Sorry that happened to those people.
I saw people lose fingers, their feet. I saw someone's foot just get smashed through grating. I just watched so many injuries. Then I smashed my own hand, and then I hurt my back, and I was like, I'm fucking done with this shit. And I got to a point where I was just like, I can just go do like a delivery job or work at a gas station for 3 days a week and just get by. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically what I've done, is work a 3-day work week for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I don't mind, like when you were saying earlier. Sorry, I'm jumping all the way back. I don't mind working like as an advisor. I guess like I would like to try to help the world, or help in some way.
I was saying maybe use that as a springboard. If you like, say you said you don't want the attention, so maybe you could, if you can find somebody that's willing to run as a candidate and do that, and then you're basically, pulling the strings, and then people will find out, and then you run the next, cycle, and boom, you're fucking the next president, because you're just saying the same thing everybody already heard from the guy that they already love, but they can't have again. You know what I'm saying? I don't
know. I don't know if, I think I want to do my own thing, though. I'm like leaning towards my own thing, but whatever opportunities might arise, maybe I make the right decision. I don't really know. I would rather start from the ground up.
It's all
like when I'm talking about, when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm not talking about like 2024. Like 2024 looks pretty fucked right now, unless I get a lot of support immediately. That ain't happening. Maybe 2028. This is probably a decades-long journey, if not longer. I might be an old fuck, but my intention is to steal this world from the old fuck.
Right. As long as you have,
give it back to the kids. Give it back to the younger generation. I think if you're younger than us older fucks, this is more your world than it is ours.
Right. Because they have to live in it for the rest of their lives too, and a lot of us are responsible for what's going on, and including our parents and grandparents especially.
Yeah. It's I do like attention, but it's like, from people that I enjoy. Having people give praise and everything to me like would feel weird. That's why, like, I don't even want to hang out at the White House that much, and I think I can maximize. Like, I'm into open relationships, which was a seed planted many years ago. By Jessica, that I have come around to. I think, maybe having an open relationship with the First Lady, she could go focus on issues. Like, I would want someone kind of like politically invested and excited about these things.
Those people are out there, dude.
Almost as she was, and she could be doing stuff. I could be undercover, and we could invite people over to the White House that are like deserving, that need issues highlighted. So I can maximize this, quote unquote attention without being paid much attention to, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right. And that's the only reason I had mentioned the being an advisor part, was because it would take you out of the spotlight, but it would allow you to kind of enforce the policies. That's all I was getting at.
Oh man, I don't even I'd rather be hanging out with some vets on Veterans Day than going to some fucking graveyard. Not like I'm not trying to be offensive. That's so much the way I think.
That's why whenever I first saw you talking with TJ and whatnot, I was like, I can totally get on board with this guy, because you're thinking more about community and connecting as opposed to just do what you have to do to survive in this fucking crazy bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
the theater. I hate the theater.
Be there for people. What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you mean
I hate the theater.
Political theater? Yeah.
Yeah, the political theater. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, that shit. Empty platitudes and fucking look over here, look over there doesn't get shit done. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna say, hey, we're part of the community, actually show up and do something. Maybe. If they say they're talking about homelessness or hunger or childhood hunger or whatever, or obesity, show up in the community and fucking get involved. But they just don't fucking do it. They just tweet out some bullshit or Instagram some bullshit, and then nothing ever happens. And it's like, well, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you getting paid to do your job? Why do you?
I fantasize so much about like little things like if any. I mean, it would just be for the local community, but like if anybody needs a meal in the DC area where the White House is, like if you come to the White House, you get a free meal. Like if Trump could go buy thousands of fucking burgers from Wendy's and Burger King and McDonald's, I should be able to get away with some nicer shit.
Yeah, and
You know, that
then maybe the people would actually feel like the government is worthy of them or worthy of, investing in, like, paying their tax dollars to, and because then they would actually be giving back to communities and making an actual fucking difference.
yeah, be proud to be an American for one.
Right.
Because I'm really not that proud right now. I'm not that proud, but I look at this muddy, dirty ass pond and I want to clean it up. I don't want to just move to another pond like some of my neighbors suggest, because they're all drunk on the MSNBC, the DNC propaganda, which is like, oh, well, if they don't like Democrats, they must love Republicans and they're on the other team and you got to fucking shame them and da, 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 da. Like, no, I think both teams suck,
Yeah, I was showing my daughter, we were talking the other day, and she said that her husband's sister, or maybe her sister's husband, or somebody was literally working for Elizabeth Warren. And I was like, yeah, I can see why someone has her views. She's got a lot of good views, but she's kind of a snake in the grass. And then she's like, what do you mean by that? And I had to show her like all the memes and all that stuff. And then we got into talking about like the political compass, because she saw and was like, what is that? And I showed her that basically all of our world leaders are all in the upper right-leaning, conservative, authoritarian box, I mean, they're all spread throughout, and it's like, look how close certain people are to certain other people, what I mean? It's like Hitler's to the left of a lot of those people, and that's kind of fucking terrifying, and she was like, yeah, well, I guess he was a dog lover and an artist, and he was kind of an outside thinker. I was like, okay, calm down there, She's like, oh, I don't agree with any of that other shit that he... Okay. So you just realize he's a human or whatever, but we all have our political spectrum. But she was really kind of thrown off by, holy fucking shit, the closest person outside of that, it was Bernie Sanders, and he was just outside of that box in the lower left box, but just by like 1 by 1, and it's like a 10 by 10 box. So
I like to think that I'm as far left as you can be, but someone proved me wrong. Well, and where I lack, if I am successful, like I'll say this now, where my failures are, in the future, I hope someone is better, because I want to be better than what we're getting right now, and I may not get it all right. I may not get it right 100% of the time, but where I fail, I hope someone is better than, I am.
Right.
My
motto has been for a while, it's been, be better than yesterday. Be better than you were yesterday. So if you recognize you're fucking up, tomorrow don't fuck up the same way, because you'll eventually fuck up in another way, but just don't do that again. You know what I mean? Because you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I firmly believe that we do have. I at least have a stupid quota for the day. I gotta do at least like 3 stupid things every fucking day, because that's just how humans are. Like we do things, we may not like to admit it, but there's some, like you said something the wrong way, you didn't proofread it before you hit enter. There's some stupid thing you said. You used a word when you should have used another word. You didn't know what that one word you used meant.
That's all reasonable shit, yeah.
Yeah. It's all right, I mean, but the extreme stupidity that, oh my God, like, I was getting my blood drawn the other day, a few weeks ago, and the one lady was, like, trying to relax me and shit. And this was not the thing to say to relax me. She's like, I'm a fan of ICP, and I'm like, oh no. I started getting like, I started looking really pale and shit. She's like, are you all right? And then she got the garbage can for me, and I started like fucking throwing up. Yeah, that wasn't the thing to say to calm me down there, but the extreme stupidity, like, that's a little too much, but we're all, let's be reasonable here, all right? The goddamn podcast would show, I haven't seen them in like a month or so, but they would show that one dude going whoop whoop, and jumping on a bunch of junk or whatever, You know,
yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
that is so fucking stupid, man. That is so like, oh my God. And then like I have a neighbor and she's trying to like, she's kind of into me and everything. And I find her attractive. She finds me attractive, but she's into ICP, which it's like the most unattractive thing about you, you know, and it's not even physical.
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean,
I
everybody
was
is
bummed
who
out when
they
she
are,
said
you
that.
know.
Like,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna
I was
lie.
like, oh no, you didn't just say that.
I had a lot of friends that were super into it, and I would listen to it and here and there. I liked Twisted and Anybody Killer a little bit, but not. I wasn't a super fan, but I'd rather listen to those guys. But yeah, I never really was super into it. And then they came out all Christian at the end. I was like, what the fuck, y'all? That's crazy.
Yeah, I remember that from DFS. They were talking about, you know, like exactly what you said. It was almost like a bait and switch. You know, they're like, yeah, we're about anarchy and raping and other drugs and shit. And you know what? The circus, it's God.
Well, the first thing
God.
I learned about them was that they had somehow conned a Disney producer into producing their record. So they were distributed on a Disney distribution thing, and then people figured out who they were, and they immediately were like, cut these guys, fuck these guys, we can't have these associated with Disney and our children and all this shit. And then it comes out, oh, it was all Christian all along. Oh yeah, you chicken hunters something like that, chicken hunters and chap 1, chap 2, chap 3, chap 4, and all the, you know, psychopathic circus and killing people in different crazy ways and shit like that. It's like, come on, okay, I guess it is a death cult, so maybe there really was some Christian bullshit. I don't know.
They definitely do. Like, that's the one thing hanging out with these goth clubs. Now, there's plenty of Christians there. They're like, most goths are Christian because we live in a nation that's mostly Christian. Makes sense, you know. But I never feared those fucking like, I'm like a Satanist, you know. I'm like super goth and everything, and I'm like, oh, thank God, because you're not going to fucking put that, you know, because there were days I did try and I failed, and you know, there were days back in my 20s, like where I'm like, okay, well, after so much stupidity, I'm going to try. And then I try with someone and I fail. But whenever I got the thought, like with those Satan people or the Satanists or whatever, you know, they always kind of crack me up, like, because they're always like, whenever Christians are trying to do their stuff, the Church of Satan is like, oh, okay, well, we were going to put a statue of the goat's head Satan with a huge cock, okay?
Right.
You know, is that all right? You know, because you're doing your shit, and I always laugh at that stuff. But also, I never have to worry, like, because Christians pull this shit. Christians are like, oh, if you want to tap this, well, you got to marry me. You got to marry me, and then you can tap it. And then it's like, what? I just want to have some fun. Well, like I'm not talking about lifelong commitment here, Jesus. You know, take it a day at a time, woman. Fuck, you know, maybe, but you know, like, anyway, yeah. Those super goths, the Satanists, fucking never did that shit. You know, I would give them that. And their death count seems to be lower than God. It would be really fucked up, wouldn't it? If it was all true and everything, but God is really Satan, and the thing labeled as Satan is really God.
Yeah,
right?
I always argue that, like, in the Bible, Satan is trying to warn everybody, like, hey, here's some knowledge so you guys can, here's the heads up, you know? And God's supposed to be all powerful, omnipotent, omniscient, and all that. He could see everything and be everywhere. But then he's like roaming around, like, looking for the little naked guy in the garden that he should be able to see at any point in time. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all that shit gets weird.
He's omnipotent, omnipresent, except in this one story, you know, he's like a lost little, you know, boy, and he needs to find, you know, something, you know, and it's like, what?
Yeah, like the logical breakdown in just that part alone. But it shows how if you make a story like that people don't really pay attention to what's really going on to it, you can kind of interpret it for them however you want. no matter, like,
Yeah.
a thousand people could read that and interpret that 1,000 different ways, you know. But that's really,
Or, well, you know what? For some of them, you know, 1,000 people will see that and interpret it 2,000 different ways. You know, like,
right.
Because they always, you know, they're like, oh, well, I meant this, you know, like I said this thing last sermon, but, you know, a year from now, this other sermon totally contradicts that one, you know. But hey, whatever.
I don't have an eidetic memory, but my grandpa used to say, oh, you got a photographic memory. But that's basically like, if we were driving, I would see a place and then I would go to his house and I would draw it. And he'd be like, how are you doing this? It's like not a photograph, but, you know, like a cartoon crayon version of it that looks pretty like you can tell what I'm drawing, you know? And, but I would remember like you said, listen to these sermons and be like, think back, well, just a month ago you were saying this other thing, so that contradicts it. And then at the end of it, I would ask, you know, and I would get in trouble. I'd get yelled at sometimes.
Oh yeah, asking questions and getting like in trouble for it. Like, how dare you? As
early as about, I would say, before I was 5, I would literally walk up to anybody and just be like, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm going to do this, and, you know, just break into conversation with anybody, with any person. And then between 5 and 7, I started asking these questions and getting just fucking violently reprimanded every time. And so I got to a point where after that, I just shut up and just snicker to myself and like, these stupid asses, like, they believe this shit, you know? But then...
Yeah, it all seemed a little silly to me. I mean, when I was really, really young, like, because I was raised into it, like, you know, I took it seriously because that's what my parents said, you know? But as I got older, you know, I was undoubtedly very questioning. And actually, one of my most fondest memories I have of my father is him saying, "That's a good question, Chris," because I was always, you know, asking questions and shit.
Yeah, well,
he got a little caught up in the rat race, though. I think it would have been better. Like, I wouldn't, like, you know, we lived in the suburbs of Chicago. At the time of his death, he was making like 80 grand, which was like, he was an architect and he had a library of all these, like, you know, building codes and shit. Like, he had hundreds of books. And I think the guys at DFF are like split 3 ways, are making about the same or more, you know, which is just amazing. But anyway, my dad worked very hard, but I think he missed out, you know, working too much, and he should have maybe been there a little more. Just, you know, I'm not saying like I got, and my mom failed a lot, you know, and I put most of the blame on her, but it would have been nice to have, my dad was like the only one that cared. And occasionally, like, he'd do something, and I'm not saying he was never around, but it would have been nice if he was around just a little bit more.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that about my grandpa. He was a very influential person in the world, and especially in our community. He was a scientist who worked on the Manhattan Project, and then later helped modern anesthesia, like the gas. He helped figure out how to regulate out, and he was on like the original team to do that, so he's got honors and all this shit. And then in the community where I live, he's like, you know, got little monuments and placards and stuff in all these little buildings and, you know, centers around town and shit like that. And he was always like, you know, you should really question stuff like that, especially when I'd get home from church, because what would happen is I'd get home from church and then he'd come pick me up, and we'd go work on the farm for the rest of the day, or we'd just go, you know, do some stuff. But I would ask him, like, why don't you go to church, you know? And he was like, I'm too busy to do that. I work at the hospital, working on a farm, you know, doing all this other stuff, investing and blah, blah, blah. I don't really have time for that. But you should really think about that stuff when you're there, you know, really, really think critically about what they're saying, you know. And I always took that as like, he never really specifically said, don't believe that shit, but he was really telling me.
Oh, that was a passive way about going about it.
Right.
And congratulations to him. He he planted that seed, you see.
Yeah, that's all
and
I
it didn't
needed.
take hold right away.
Yeah, and he's probably
But
the most
eventually,
influential person in my life because he was that guy that actually cared enough to fucking say something, you know. And then him and my mom got in a big, huge fight, and she basically banned me from going around him, which is stupid because I could have went over there anytime I wanted. I just, you know, I didn't want to bring that stress on him, you know. So that shit, I felt really bad because he died, and I really didn't get to see him in his last few years, you know. So that really sucked.
well, I mean, life happens sometimes, you know. But
yeah.
he steered you on a nice path and everything. Like the most influential person I would have to say on my life was Jessica, because she gave me that outlet. It was right when my dad was dying too, and you know, although I ended up on a dark path by being stupid and being isolated too by my family, it was weird, and being failed by my family, not given the skills or anything to help deal with my ADHD or to figure out who I am and what I like, and then discouraging me with things, you know, that I do like, you know, like the straitjacket reaction that I got, you know, and yeah, it was just she was probably the most influential person, you know, and I was very mean to her, just being rude and throwing shade, really, not anything physical.
Well, really,
But,
the only thing you can do now that you're not around her, but you know that she influenced you, is just to continue to remember all the things why, and you know, why she influenced you in such ways, and how it makes you feel better, or how it makes you want to do better, and all that, because that's really all you can do.
Well, she's not dead. And although I've sent a lot of stupid internet messages, I was just thinking of maybe keeping one last one, just like really short, and just thanking her and saying sorry.
Right. I mean, I wasn't saying that she was dead. I was just saying that since you weren't I didn't know you were in communication with her, but.
Oh, I'm not. We haven't spoken in years. I don't even know what she sounds like anymore. Like, I think I think I could think what she sounds like, but I don't know if that's accurate. You know, right? You know, it's been so long. But I think I should say thank you. I've been pondering it, but I don't know if I pushed her away because I just didn't feel worthy, and I did that by making her hate me, and I succeeded.
Well,
so.
I would say that's kind of that's a common thing for people to do because the way we were raised, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I was so stupid. I was a fucking retard. I was like beyond stupidity. Like, sounds like a ICP, you know, band, you know what I mean? Or like some fans of theirs, you know, beyond stupidity. Yeah. But yeah, I was very retarded, but she, you know, what happened, and you know, there's nothing that can be done. But I wouldn't be on the path that I am now, wanting to run for president. I will fucking go after the corrupt. I'll piss them off. Maybe that's why the corrupt came for me. I have my suspicions that not everything that happened to me these past 9 or so years is just a coincidence. Like, I get thrown in jail like over a hearsay. My family attacks me almost a year later. I have a recording of that. I have a recording of them saying they will lie to the pigs to get out of what they're doing to me, and that they'll fucking kill me. And nothing is done about that. In fact, when I kept pressing the police, the Orland Park, Illinois police, they threatened me with a grand jury felony, which at the time, because my mind is being fucked up, I actually started Ritalin too, back in 2012. And I was, you know, got on antidepressants. I'm working out. I quit smoking. I found that chick. I was doing all these positive things, I thought. And then my family comes in and does all this horrible shit to me. And they're like, we're doing it because we love you, Chris. We love you, Chris. You know, and that didn't really feel much like love. You know, they took a loved one away from me. I had started smoking again after only 30 days in one of the worst jails in America, Cook County Jail. You know, I had stopped working out. I was homeless. I wasn't on my Ritalin anymore, but I was being fed a straight up antipsychotic. Like, do I sound psychotic to you? Like, I'm a little bit healed now, and I was kind of healing back then too. So, the reason for the Ritalin, though, pardon. The reason for the Ritalin was, I had stopped taking it halfway through high school. So sophomore year was my last year. Junior year, I stopped. I was going to do it all naturally, and that's when my grades dipped. And then I continued that, you know, not taking Ritalin for like a decade, and that was into college, you know, which I took some college, but I didn't really follow through, and getting a student loan scared the shit out of me. And so I don't have a student loan, but I feel for people that do. As I think you heard in one of my private ideas, I would definitely do something about that, and you know, use something as leverage. You know? To get stuff for people.
Yeah, the whole we should elevate people who have the passion to do good and make, you know, like say someone's super into architecture and they want to build the best, biggest, most safe bridges we could have, you know what I mean? Why not push them through and get them the scholarships they need to do college? Or if we just do away with all the paid college bullshit, just make sure that they're capable of getting that class, you know, that class is available to them, you know what I'm saying? Or that type of education. Because look at how like everything can be done over the internet now. Why do we have to have a physical classroom? Why can't we have a virtual classroom with the 30 smartest fucking guys on the planet being taught by this very smartest physicist or whatever, you know?
We could do the classless room thing, but I think it's helpful for certain people to be physically there, and it helps their focus better. Like, I have a hard time dancing outside of a dance club. But if I was put in that dark, goth environment.
I'm saying in subjects that are like philosophical, or like if you're doing mathematics or talking about history and stuff like that, it's not a thing. But if you got like labs and stuff like that, and I mean, I can understand really wanting that, but it's not completely necessary.
It's the way that people learn. It's the way that people learn. Like sitting in front of a computer might be too easy to be distracted, you know, by a person that just needs to sit there and be self-disciplined, you know.
Yeah, I get that, but I was saying, like, if you're discussing physics and there's like, think about it, how few people really understand like quantum physics and how many people are actually studying it and sticking to it. And what if they all could meet at one place, you know what I'm saying, instead of 3 guys going to a class that cost them $28,000 to attend, you know what I'm saying, when they could be doing it over the internet for a lot cheaper and actually get people the degrees and, you know, the education they actually need to further technology and to help out humanity as a whole. Because I feel like there's so many people that are missing out on helping out the world because they're being cut off because of the situation of they come from a poor family, and they might be the smartest motherfucker on the planet, but guess what? They don't get to go to college because they have to work through high school and help their disabled parents out, and then we don't cure cancer because they get shot in a drive-by or some crazy shit, you know what I'm saying? And they could have been...
Yeah, or they just don't get the education and they weren't set on a proper path.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, that's where I was going, but, you know, I'm just saying, like, other inopportune things happen outside of that, but that's like the main thing is, yes, those kids or young adults or whoever don't get that chance to make a difference anyway.
To thrive. They don't get the chance to thrive. I get that, you know, and I feel for that. And it happens to us by the millions every fucking year, you know, and I just see this aggregation of hate. And they really are very good at stifling the, you know, revolution or resistance to this corrupt bullshit. Like Occupy, they fucking crush their heads. Black Lives Matter, you don't really hear much of them, do you? I mean, I hear it through my independent news sources, but just like mainstream shit, you know, which means most people aren't hearing it. You know, they're like, oh, well, it's just a little thing, you know, everything's fine now.
Yeah, you really
know, but no, the emotion is there. People are upset. People like, and I want to harness that emotion. I think I can, you know, if done properly, if taken the proper steps, I could harness this emotion like kind of like Bernie did. Well, Bernie was all fake about it. There's great things I loved about Bernie, but what he's doing now and cucking to the fucking Democrats, I don't look up to that. And that's one thing that, like, when observing all this shit, like, I need to learn from these people's mistakes. If they are truly sincere and they're sincerely fucking up and they're not corrupt pieces of shit, he definitely look corrupt from where I'm standing. But
do you think that maybe Bernie looked behind the curtain and saw what scared the shit out of him, and he realized that if he didn't play along, that he was going to get pushed out, and there's no way that he would have a voice after that because it's happened to so many people before him, and he's got the most extreme voice against them?
He, I think, has a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, and he's just old, and he's put up a good fight over the years, and he's just lost a few steps, and he maybe he is. Like he could be suffering from dementia, not to like smear, but like maybe he is having some sort of mental like issue that's starting to manifest with him kind of cucking to the Democrats right now, or maybe he's just given up his will to fight or something. Yeah,
maybe
off.
He's just cynical now because he's fought for his entire life, and he realized that even when he's the person everybody looks at as, yeah, we really need to go that way, and then they vote Joe Biden. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, what?
Or Hillary. Like, dude, every county in West Virginia voted for Bernie in the primary, and then it went to Hillary. I haven't forgot that shit. Yeah. Fucking DNC bitches.
Both times, that's like
both years. The Democrats is where people like me go to die. Yeah, both times.
And you know, a lot of that is voters don't want to be on the losing team, or they don't think a third party candidate can win because not enough. Well, guess what? If you can stray outside of your fucking dumb red blue team bullshit, we could pick anybody in the whole entire world that don't have to be associated with the fucking DNC or the GOP or what the fuck ever. You know what I'm saying? Why don't?
Yeah, we need to encourage that. But people are like, well, if you vote for a third party, you're really voting for.
You're wasting a vote, and you're voting for the other party that I'm not voting for. Well, what? That's stupid. You know? Yeah.
We need, dispelling a lie could travel the world, and the time it takes the truth to put on its shoes. And that's a problem. But, what else am I going to do? Just sit here and take it? I want to do something about it. I'm tired of all the suffering. I'm a very empathetic person.
So what you said does ring true, but guess what? Old people are dying off, and it's sad to say that it sucks, but they're old and they're going to die off. And in this new information age, yes, it is easy to spread a lie, but it's also a lot easier to, like how, so if you're on Twitter or Instagram or something and you say anything about COVID, it like adds a little tab to it that says, this is the real info. If this is some bullshit.
Could you hang on a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a knock on the door. Hang on a second. Pardon. Right. Pardon. That was, I think I got some more plastic vaginas to put on my face. I've never felt better. I've never felt better since I've been putting a plastic vagina on my face.
Well, I'm glad you feel better, because it fucking sucks to not be able to breathe or not be able to sleep.
Well, just getting good rest, I had no idea. Like they're like, you'll notice a difference in 28 days, and then like I noticed the difference like on the second day, and like I could recall my thoughts, I could think, I could talk clearer. I think I sound a lot better than any of my previous shit. At least I think I do. I don't know. I could be.
I imagine getting a little more oxygen to your brain while you're sleeping is beneficial to anybody. I would hope.
Yeah, and it was because this chick that I was with when I was homeless. Her name was Elizabeth Doza. She passed away, but she was an older chick, and I dig older chicks. I know. I need to like them young, right? To be taken seriously, you know. But if I like some older chick, there was this grandma I was trying to fucking hook up with, and she brought like her daughter over that was working for the DEA, and I know what they probably talked about is like, you know, me wanting to like fuck her, but like if you really think about that, really, that's something you're gonna fucking, you know, that's a negative. Like what? Like what? I would have banged your grandma. Like what? Like you know, like. I mean, I guess people could try to make fun of it, but
maybe it's an association thing. Like, I wouldn't want him to bang my grandma, so you know what I mean. Maybe it's something.
Well, at least I'll treat her nice. I'll make her a sandwich afterwards. Would some other guy do that shit?
Meanwhile, most people over like 55 are having more sex than people in like their 20s. You know what I mean? Because people in their 20s are more self-conscious and overworked and busy with kids and all this shit, and they're at the old folks home just fucking away, getting STDs left and fucking right, not giving a fuck. So
yeah. Hey, that would probably be me, you know. I'm like, yeah, I'm 70, what the fuck ever.
Yeah, you know? Fuck it. Yeah,
who cares?
Yeah, well,
who cares about HPV?
You can't
or
fucking blame them. They've lived fucking 70 years of this bullshit. No fucking shit. They're cynical and jaded as fuck. They don't give a shit anymore.
Oh,
and
dude,
they're the ones that
are.
And what's crazy is going back to what we were talking about. They're the ones that show up to vote, and then, you know, we get fucking.
Well, they get duped too. They're like, oh, Joe Biden looks like a stand-up guy. He's going to cure cancer. You know, like he said, if we vote for him, he's going to cure cancer.
Yeah.
And then he talk about
where's
that.
At? Yeah, I think about that almost every fucking day.
Yeah, my dad died of cancer. I like to think that I think about it every day, but it's almost every day.
Well,
yeah, I think about that 2019 statement.
Yeah,
you know, that he made.
My girlfriend, she's a survivor of malignant melanoma, which is one of the most. It's pretty scary. If you don't catch it early enough, most people die from it. You know what I'm saying? So she just happened to catch it early enough because she's always had skin issues. Good. She had a skin doctor and was like, this looks kind of weird. Let's do a biopsy on it, and happened to be cancer. So they went and basically cut off all the skin cancer that they possibly could, which she looked like she got shot up by a fucking fully automatic 22 or something, because she had little scars all over her for, you know, a couple weeks or whatever. But
yeah.
But then you hear him say shit like that. It's like, dude, we know like several people in our family that have had cancer or going through cancer treatment, or, you know what I'm saying, or dead from it. And it's like, you're just gonna say we're gonna cure cancer after like no real, you know, no research into it and all. It's just like, it just drives me fucking crazy when people say shit like that, especially someone in that position. And then people are like,
I think
we're gonna vote for him now.
Like, I think so much about like that statement, man. Like, you have no idea. Like, I think about the people that are desperate and they're not well informed enough to know that he's full of shit, and they're like, they hear that, and that's like the one thing. Like, oh my god, my family. Well, they'll think he's a good guy too. That as well. But they're like, my family member has been going, you know, through cancer on and off and everything, and I'm very worried. And I know people, and Biden is going to do something about it finally. And then nothing happens, you know. And then there's all these tax breaks for Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, and all these handouts to these weapon contractors. and then nothing for the fucking people. And it's very heartbreaking,
they
you know, and then nobody's
it.
addressing that shit.
Yeah.
And then they accept it, like they got Stockholm syndrome too. Like Jimmy Dore says, like Jimmy Dore be wrong about some science shit. It's hard to get away from the PP, the two P's, which is pseudoscience and propaganda. Right. He's very good at breaking down propaganda, but when it comes to pseudoscience-y things, he's not so good at. Now, the aspirating of the vaccine is a legitimate complaint that he has, and that's probably why he did get sick, because they shot it into his vein and not muscle
right.
tissue.
But that's kind of that's such a slim thing that happened. I think it's happened to like 6 people out of what 150 million people.
Well, they don't check. I don't think they aspirate. I think they're starting to aspirate, which they pull back the needle a little bit to see if there's blood. And if there's blood, they throw it away. Right, because the media and everybody were talking about it, so because he mentioned it. Right, so yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think that he mentioned the ivermectin shit, which is like, dude, that's some pseudoscience nonsense, man. You know, whatever you see, it's like statistical nonsense. It's like akin to like correlation isn't necessarily causation. Like Asian people eat a lot of rice, but Asian people have a lot, black hair too, you know, but eating rice doesn't cause black people to have black hair, you know, like there's a pattern there, but I think he's just reading it wrong just because he's not that well trained in the pseudoscience shit. Try to check out some Carl Sagan, Jimmy Dore, you know, if you hear this.
Right. Yeah, I really was on the Jimmy Dore bandwagon for push the vote and all that shit, and then he started talking about all this ivermectin is okay and all this shit. I'm just
he's
like,
right about
whoa.
that, and he's wrong about this. You know, like people could be right and wrong. You know, just like Chelsea Manning is lashing out, and I could personally relate to that lashing out. Like when you've gone through so much trauma and your brain is just fucking scrambled, you do things you wouldn't normally do, you know, and I forget I forget precisely the details of what happened a month or two ago with Chelsea Manning, but she did something, I think, you know, stupid, maybe even embarrassing, is the emotions I'm getting. And but I think, you know, while I'm on the subject of Chelsea Manning, I wonder if she would want to be the head of the CIA if I was in charge. I think making the CIA good would be a noble goal. Although I understand
transparent now instead of basically it's all just a facade.
Well, it's a money-making scheme, really, you know, and they invent enemies. We could be working more as a people, as nations, we're working together, you know. The only reason why Russia and China are so invested in their fucking, like, tech or spies is because America is. And so we all just need to chill the fuck out a little bit, smoke a little weed, all right, you know, and just, you know, maybe start doing things a little bit differently because we can't sustain what we're doing right now too, you know, with all the fuel usage. And that recycling idea was probably stupid. Like, you know, I didn't make a correction, but let me make one now in the previous thing that I said. Having like little devices in everyone's house to help recycle their materials is probably stupid.
No, that's maybe a good idea. Just a shredder.
No.
It would just be different than what you were thinking. That's all. It would be similar.
No. Like we could put these things in more abundant places because I think that will waste a lot of material as well. Because those things have to be crafted and developed, and you know,
I see what you're saying. Like a community shredder or something where
like at a park.
It up. Well, you could even have like, you know how you have little cul-de-sacs where you could just, you know how you have like dumpsters behind apartments or whatnot. Yeah, just a drop-off spot in everybody's community where they can get to it very easily, and you don't feel like you're dumping.
Centers is not enough.
Yeah,
like the big recycling centers aren't enough, and then the individual shit might be too much. But maybe a little thing in the middle right there, like the community and the cul-de-sacs around, you know, certain places around town, that would be probably the most efficient idea, is what I'm thinking. So I need to correct that because that was stupid, and I was doing some more reflecting. And I made this correction in my head months ago.
The general idea of it is a great idea, but yes, you're probably right. If you had to make one for every house, it would take up more material and more manpower and more whatever. But yeah, but still, the general concept of people need more access to being able to recycle, and maybe each individual house has a little shredder thing, a unit where you put your plastics through and it shreds it up into little things, and then you go dump it into that, and it makes it more easy to handle or something.
Well, I was thinking
you dump
that
your pot and you
plastic
take it.
Plastic is kind of hard to recycle.
Well, not all of it. There's like 1/7 of it gets recycled, and right. I mean, I guess that's still not much.
They put like foam. They put foam in dirt to kind of like help get rid of the foam too. But maybe we should consider putting like little pieces of plastic if they don't already in the road. Because roads got to be built, and a lot of that material gets recycled, and maybe we could like just throw some little piece of plastic, not enough to like ruin the traction or anything like that, but just to do we want these plastic pieces scattered in our oceans and our soil, or do we want it embedded in the road, to kind of like, to prevent pollution?
Right. You're right. A lot of it can't be reinstituted as can't be a gallon jug and a gallon jug and a gallon jug or a water bottle over and over and over. But
it could be recycled once or twice or something, right. And then it's like done.
But putting it directly into the ground also isn't good because it like turns into little microscopic pieces, and that gets into everything. So it would almost be better to burn it off, which is even really worse because then the
maybe we could sequester it. Maybe we could like shoot it into the wells. Shoot it underground. And like we extracted oil from this big chasm. Why can't we shoot a bunch of plastic down there?
Yeah, because all plastic is petroleum waste.
The earth, like, kind of use and do that in locations where it will get recycled by the earth. Like, eventually, like the crust is going downward.
Throw it into the volcanoes.
Another plate.
Throw it into an active volcano. Fuck it.
Maybe make a device at the bottom of that chasm to drill down so you could leak a little bit of lava into it. I don't know if that would be a wise idea or if that sounds like a Dr. Evil idea, but I'm willing, to entertain ideas.
There you go. We're doing flyover helicopters over an active volcano, but the cost of the trip is your body weight in plastic waste. And you have to throw it in.
That sounds like an Elon Musk idea.
I'm being facetious, but I'm just saying, okay. People would fucking sign up left and right to do that shit. I'll find everything plastic in my house to do this shit.
Speaking of, I did mention the CIA earlier. Like, I think they could be good. Now, I do watch like those internet scam baiters from time to time. And wouldn't it be fun? Wouldn't it be fun instead of overthrowing the government? This is my argument, I guess, directly to the CIA, right? Wouldn't it be more fun to like fuck with some of those internet scammers, man? Like, I think you could do a lot of good with that. And it would be more worthy of your time because it's helping out our grandmas and grandpas and friends and neighbors not get scammed instead of fucking like overthrowing some government for some fucking evil corporation.
Why?
Just thought.
Why isn't there like a way to block them on like you can do on Twitter? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
because it's so easy to get another phone number. Like, it's so easy for them to generate another phone number and change numbers and shit. But these places can be easily targeted. We have the resources, and we could take them all down and have a lot of fun doing it, I think.
You want to know what I do? You want to know? This is some crazy shit. So I tested this out on my girlfriend, and it literally drove her fucking nuts for 3 days. So on my iPhone, I copy-pasted the first 1,000,000 digits of pi, and then I pasted it into the text 3 times, and I hit send.
Oh.
and it turned into 30,000 text messaging, and it just goes ding, 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 and you can't access anything on your phone because it's just constant fucking. And she had to turn her phone off. She would check it every 12 hours or so, and she'd turn it on, and it would say you have 20,000 new messages, and it'd be like ding, ding, ding.
How did it even allow you to do that?
So this is it. It breaks up the text into little tiny packages of like tweets, basically. So it packages those million digits into 20, 30,000 little packages, and it sends them all out. So when I get those, sign up for, we'll put Dr. Pepper on the side of your car for $500 a month, which is a scam because I actually got a hold of Dr. Pepper, and they don't do that. They have a whole different system of it. They have a fleet of their own cars. So anyways, they were like, you should just block those people or make people aware, because it'll be like 9 other numbers, like they send out 10 people at a time. So I'll text everybody else, hey, that's a scam, leave it alone. And then I'll text them 5 or 6 of those pie messages. So it's probably a fucking month of that shit. So that number is completely can't be used. And then I was like, well, if it's automated, it's just sending it to an automated number. Well, they still can't use that number for however long that's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
And it's always through a text number too. It's never through a landline. So because if it's a landline, it just won't send it. It'll just say,
I get like, ever since I got attacked, my mom's boyfriend, and maybe with my mom condoning it all, has been signing me up to all sorts of shit. Like, he plugs my phone number into things, college inquiries, car insurance quotes.
Send him some pies.
Well, no, see, because he's using them as a proxy, so I don't ever get his direct information. It's always like, hey, this is some insurance person from Colorado Springs, and you're looking for life insurance, I hear. And it's like, no, I'm not. I didn't sign up for this shit. Where did this come from? Where's the IP address? And most of them fail to provide me with this information, which there should be laws on the books too. If someone sends something through the internet, like you're a business, you're Progressive or whatever, auto insurance, and when you sign up that automatic quote to be texted to you, you got to fucking have a date, time, and IP address on that shit. Like, of who put that request through.
Right.
Man, it's amazing. Like they, after attacking me, they abusing their power of attorney. My mom put my grandmother's name on this order of protection, and she wasn't at the house when they attacked me because it's either because I got sent to jail in December into the new year from 2012 to 2013, or I got sent to a mental hospital for wanting to run for president later that February for 10 days. Either way, I was out of the house, and she had fallen and broken her hip, and she was recovering in a nursing home. So I was at her place all alone, and that's when my mom and her boyfriend came and attacked. And so she put the order of protection against me after attacking me, and like, I have that video on my YouTube that anyone can listen to. It's 33 minutes long and 8 seconds, or 33 minutes, 8 seconds long, and the first half-ish is about me getting attacked, and the last half-ish are the pigs doing nothing for me. But hey, I'm not getting arrested. I remember that very vividly. I'm not getting arrested. And it's like, what? They came here, attacked me. Like, you can hear me in the first minute or two trying to scream, I can't breathe. So I could definitely relate to that George Floyd incident. I know I'm white and everything, but I've lived certain life experiences, and I can relate to people, and I'm not a racist piece of shit like my grandfather was, and I have a friend that's a racist too.
Yeah, I have a little story that goes along.
Yeah, it's annoying.
With that. I was literally just playing outside in the front yard at my friend's house. We had those little airsoft guns. They're clear, and they shoot little pink and green and like different color. Well, they're little plastic pellets, but they sting a little bit, but they're not gonna hurt nobody. And they make literally a click sound that sounds like a snap, basically, when they fire. And the neighbors called the cops on us, and 6 of them showed up and pointed guns in my face, and one of them got on my back and had his knee in like my upper shoulder area, and I had a broken back from a football injury from like 3 years before that, and it was like the most excruciating, crushing my chest, can't breathe moment. And then when I saw that, I was just like, you know, the George Floyd incident, I was just like, holy fuck, you know what I'm saying? I could have done that, you know what I'm saying? Thankfully, it was a toy clear gun and it didn't look real, or I might have been fucking dead or something, you know what I'm saying? So I've had quite a few run-ins, and it's always just some bullshit like that, you know?
What I understood is that like George Floyd and that officer had previous interactions.
Oh yeah.
So like
he had beef.
You know, it might have been a little bit more personal.
Shit. Yeah, he definitely did. Well, I'm sure they discussed that in court. I'm sure they did.
Yeah, I didn't follow the details of the case. You know, but everyone cheered themselves after they got Derek Chauvin. But it's like, dude, this is one guy out of literally like millions that have gotten away with it.
Systemic, because that's why he thought he could get away with it, because he knows other cops that have gotten away with it, and it's only till recently that it's like, oh, we better crack down on these cops for walking into someone's apartment and shooting them when I was exhausted and I didn't know where I was at. But it wasn't your fucking place. So, you know, that type of shit.
I immediately know that it's not my place. Like,
right. What are you? Well, okay. So what kind of excuses are those? They're just stupid excuses to get away with blatant fucking murder, and because they're an authority
and
position.
If a civilian used that excuse,
they're getting
like,
30 fucking years.
No, that ain't nothing.
Right.
You know, that ain't a defense for your actions. You're a piece of shit, and you got, you know, the max.
And then you get all these people that sympathize for those people. Oh, well, they were just doing their job. No, they fucking weren't, you know? So.
Yeah, they went beyond doing their job. Like, doing your job is keeping your cool. Like, right. You know, and not murdering a fucking citizen and you know, like, you know, I don't know. It seems like a really low bar to clear, but apparently, you know, we still get to, you know, clear it.
Well,
but I think
their slogan has gone from basically to protect and serve to in God we trust. So that kind of makes a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the mentality of
there was a court case too that says they pretty much don't need to protect people. You know, and I think one was maybe related, or the ruling was around the Parkland shooting.
Yeah,
time.
And that's fucking insane. Because that's literally what they... Well, that's not what they were literally started for, but that's what they're supposed to be for, you know? If we're paying for
like,
if our tax dollars are paying their salaries, then what the fuck are we paying for? Them to torture us?
I mean, I'd rather hire that dude that dresses up like Spider-Man or some other superhero to actually, you know, try to stop crime, because these cops are going around like murdering people. Then they're actively not protecting your kids. And then they retired, like that motherfucking pig retired on a fucking $8,300 a month, you know, fucking pension.
Yeah,
dude,
that's like
I get my meager 800.
That's like fucking $100,000 a year. Yeah.
Yeah, I get 800 a month, and people might say that's too much, and I'm getting it because they labeled me with bipolar, and I have a problem, I think, making money, and well, I clearly do. So they, instead of working my ass off for $10,000 a year, I do nothing for $10,000 a year.
It's just you're not productive for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're not being productive for them. So what?
I have a hard time with money issues, and quite honestly, with promotions and shit. Like, I'm like, oh, well, that, you know, it's that single mother and everything. They probably need it more than I do. You know, I've kind of been like that at jobs and everything.
Here's the thing. That single mother does need that, but you also do. That's you know,
well, that's
it's
part
good
of the
that you look
self-hatred
out
that I was
for
going
them.
through, man.
Right.
You know,
it's good that you're looking out for others, but when it comes to that company, they're 50 cents an hour that they're giving you isn't going to affect them if they give someone else 50 cents or 10 other people, because that's still only $5, and to them they make $5 a second, you know what I mean? So they don't really give a fuck, you know. So to me, I'm one of those, you better give me what you promised me. Oh, you said you're going to give me an evaluation in 30 days. on the 29th day, I'm going to be like, hey, remember my evaluation's tomorrow, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I got fucked over so often when I was young and didn't know better until when, you know, I got that job as a welder and I started getting around guys that are like, oh, you better get paid, dude. If you're doing this job, you better fucking demand what you're fucking worth. So I learned how to negotiate my worth, and you basically have to say, motherfucker, I'm an asset to this company. If I walk away, you're going to have to pay 2 dudes to do my job. Would you rather pay 2 guys $20 an hour or give me 35? And I already know the job, and you know I can do the job. You know what I mean? So you want to spend all that training and time and orientation and bullshit, or give me my fucking money? You know what I'm saying? And usually they're like, all right, and they give it to you. And then next time, I'll quit if you don't, and they'll give it to you, you know? So a lot of people don't have that mentality or haven't been conditioned to do that because they haven't been in that environment yet. But, you know, in that environment, it's easy to demand because, hey, I could fucking die for this shit. You better pay me. You know what I'm saying? And a cop should also get paid well. And I think that's why a lot of them are corrupt, because they can get in good with a little drug dealer and get a little scam going on and make some fucking real money doing that. And then they're just popping off, you know, people and putting them in debt because they're just cycling them through a system and it's fucking them over. But, you know, the cop and his little drug dealer buddy, they're doing just fine, you know? So it baffles me that those type of people get away with that. And we know it's going on. It's going on all over the fucking country, probably all over the fucking world.
Well, those people, they need to have more civilian oversight, and there needs to be some sort of like sting operations. Like we're going to test you. Like, you know, how they go into stores and they test clerks that they're fucking selling cigarettes to minors. Well, okay, that's a good idea. Fair enough. We should do the same to people in higher positions of authority and power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then everybody would maybe mind their P's and Q's because they would realize, oh shit, I'm susceptible to that, you know, it could happen to me, you know what I'm saying? But it doesn't, because they're above it, you know? And then when it does happen,
what if this,
woe is me, they're coming down on us.
Black guy? What if this isn't just a black guy? What if this is a black guy that's hired in by this agency and he's being monitored right now? And if the cops come over and like fucking murder him, they're going to fucking like, you know, face severe consequences for executing, especially a federal employee, you know, right?
Right. And
or something like, you know, there's got to be something. There's got to be some accountability.
What's crazy is that sounds reasonable now because it's such an extreme thing going on now, because any day a cop could pull his gun out and just shoot somebody because he just dislikes that person. And that's probably the most terrifying authority that anybody can have is, oh, well, he wasn't listening to me. He was resisting. Why were you arresting him? Okay, so he started walking when the light turned yellow. Okay, I get it. He probably was making conditions unsafe, but you fucking killed the dude. So you didn't make it better. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. That really gossipy neighbor I have that's like all talking mad shit about me and other people and tries to pit neighbors against neighbors and shit. He's like full of trash and everything. But I had an epiphany the other day because I like figured out the dude. Cause I was always getting bad vibes from him, but I didn't know why. And I just learned why. But he's always like, yeah, if someone breaks into my apartment, I'll fucking like kill him. You know, he's always like fantasizing about these like fucking scenarios in which he'll like kill someone. Someone stole something from me, I'll kill him. You know, he's always saying shit like that, and it's like, dude, like, you know, good thing he didn't choose cop as a career path. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah,
but there are people like that.
Hopefully, people hear him say that and just avoid him. You know what I mean? Because if somebody I was around was saying some shit like that, I'd be like, all right, well, if you think I got, because if something comes up moved or missing, well, you stole it, and then boom, I'm getting shot for something I didn't take. You know, fuck him. I'm out of here. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah, the dude's great. Like, he has like all these weapons and everything. He has like a fucking like a large mace or something with spikes on it and shit, and like swords and crossbows and air guns. That's
scary.
Yeah, he has all sorts of shit. Like, he has all sorts of shit, and he like put a security camera out his door, like looking at mine, you know. And then he's all like trying to be nice to me and like protect. He bribes his loyalty, and he does that. She's like giving free shit away to all the other neighbors.
That's a
you
scared
know,
ass
and
person, dude. That person is terrified of everything outside of those doors. And that's weird because that person's probably the scariest person I can think of.
I
Like,
did try giving him good advice because, like, before he kind of showed his true colors and everything, I was like, dude, you know, like, worrying about all these neighbors and getting into all their business is going to drive you insane, man.
Oh,
you know, and I told him that, you know, and I'm like, you should try getting out more. Like, go to the bar, or go. And he invites me over for these Sunday fucking like football things, which like just don't interest me at all. So I was heading over to my local sex club, right? You know, I'll myself, fuck it, you know, and so I invited him. You know, I'm like, hey, there's this club here, and you might want to check it out. You know, if you know, that's your thing. You know, but now he's like, oh, you're a pervert. And then there was this neighbor that I banged, but she came over looking for sex, and apparently because I put my penis in her vagina, I was taking advantage of her. You know, in a willing, consenting vagina, nonetheless, sir. You know, so like, and he's like, yeah, he went off on me. He's like, you take advantage of people, you're just a pervert. You know, and it's like, fuck you, man. You know, I told him, you know, you got a big mouth, because like one of the other neighbors was talking about my business, but I only mentioned to him at the time. And so it was like I was hearing his words come out of her mouth, and you know, and that was like really upsetting. And I just couldn't take it, so I had to interject myself. I actually cut myself off from this person because she stole a few items from me, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. They were like dollar store items. It wasn't a big deal, but it was the principle.
Oh yeah, I totally understand, because eventually it's going to get more and more, and then you're going to say something, and then shit's going to get out of hand. You know what I mean? So yeah, you can't
I just don't want to. I kind of. Yeah, I was rubbed the wrong way about it, but then I had to, you know, because this dude is going around like, you know, trying to like pit neighbors against me or whatever, and her, because he's like, oh, she's a slut. You gotta get checked out, Chris. And that's just something that I do because I'm a responsible adult. It wasn't like I listened to this douchebag's advice and I'm like, oh, I gotta get checked out, you know. But I got checked out. I'm fine and everything. But he's talking mad shit about her, and then he's like also hanging out with her, which is, you know, like it just irked. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Like I couldn't stand it, so I had to start talking to her again, and I forgave her, and she returned some of the stuff, although my nail clippers are still gone. I bought these nice Revlon nail clippers, and they're fucking gone. Anyway, I'll get some more tomorrow or whatever. Yeah, I kind of had to start talking with her again to kind of undo his manipulation that he goes around doing all the time, and I just couldn't do it. He bribes people. He only hangs out with people. He says he like the dude is, yeah, like you said, he's really scared. Like he's yelling at some neighbor, like some neighbor's got visiting someone like 6-7 units away. Fucking, they only show up for a half hour. He thinks that they're dealing drugs, and maybe so, but it's none of his business.
Right.
Like, and he starts yelling at them like, keep those drugs out of here, you know, when they start leaving, and they get in their car, and then he runs inside his place and he grabs his air gun, and then he starts pursuing the car with his little air gun, and it's so fucking like, dude, like, oh my god, you're like the biggest drama queen. I was thinking about getting him like a queen crown, you know, on my way out when I fucking, you know.
I would just avoid that guy altogether, for real. It's sad because
very poisonous and toxic.
That person needs a lot of help and a lot of influence from the outside, but he doesn't seem like it's gonna.
I try giving him good advice, you know, like I'm like, try getting out more, and you know, and don't focus on all this shit. You can drive you mad, and he's chose madness and hate.
Well, in this society, it's fucking really hard for people to get out and trust people, because it's easy for people to defraud you or to take advantage of you, and he's probably just projecting, you know, onto you what's happened to him by all these other people. Like I do it myself. Like my family and friends fucked me over, so I have a really hard time connecting with people and having friends. So I haven't really had a close friend in at least 3 years. But before that, you know, it was, I mean, when I was 17 to 28 years old, I had like 15 people at my house every day. You know what I'm saying? Every single day we were just hanging out, and we may not have been partying, but we'd sit around and play video games or watch a movie or just chill and have a discussion and a smoke session and whatnot. But there was always people around, and then people started fucking me over. Like, friends and business don't mix, so that's kind of part of it. And
it's like, who took my copy of Super Smash Brothers?
Yeah.
Who took my copy of Super Smash Brothers?
Well, it ended up being
like,
a lot of us were getting into harder and harder drugs. I basically stuck to weed and acid because shrooms.
Yeah, same here. I avoided the whole like drug, like dope thing, you know, successfully.
I'm allergic to fungus, so shrooms were out. So I stuck to acid once or twice a year and smoked weed 5, 6, 7 days a week. But most of these guys were getting into coke and meth and other shit that I don't even know what the fuck it was. And, you know,
yeah, I fucked my life up in a
money
different
would
way.
disappear, or, you know, from a locked room. It's like, how does it disappear from a locked room? Oh, it probably was the person who said it disappeared just stole it, or just, you know, or is lying or something.
Yeah.
And now we all got to come up with the rent money in like 2 days because someone, you know, is shady or whatever throughout the friend group or whatever. And then you can't trust each other. And it's like, how about we all just give the money right when the landlord walks in? Well, what if one or two of us are at work at the time? You know, and it's like, spot me. No, I'm not doing that. You know, it's like, are we friends? Are we bros? Are we roommates? Are we fucking enemies? What the hell's going on here? You know, so that type of shit happens, you know. I've been through some of that shit.
Yeah, all those little betrayals. And I don't know, like, if I could even get, like, I don't know if I could ever fully trust anyone ever again. Like, I know that sounds fucked up and everything, but, like, I've had my family fuck me a few times, and this last time was very severe. And my brother and sister could have said something at the time. Like, I have that recording. I remember I sent it to them. They didn't say anything at the time, and that silence is very deafening. And so, you know, I kind of don't talk to them either. It's kind of like, you know, the day that I got attacked is like the day that my family died, you know, and they successfully made it to where I couldn't even talk to my grandma without violating some order of protection. Then they would sign me up to a bunch of shit. And at the time they were using the email ones, and in the email ones, they usually send you an IP address. Like, hey, this was done on this day and time with the IP address. And I used one of those free IP address, like the physical address locators, and it was like a mile away from where my mom and her boyfriend lived.
Right.
You know, and the cops, the fucking pigs didn't do anything. And it's like, dude, they got an order of protection against me, and they're sending me all this harassing shit. Fuck you. You know, they're sending me my social security number, my bank account information. You know, they're sending me all sorts of shit, and they're not fucking doing anything. It was so insulting. That's why I really have a disdain towards cops, but it's been a lifelong thing. Like, ever since I got into trouble in the high school there, they fucking, you know, there was this one, you know, drug dealing student. His father was a captain, and, you know, his father told his kids, and his kids told everyone. And after when I started being able to drive, I would get pulled over all the time, like not stopping at a stop sign completely. Like, I would be singled out. And like, because the two other cars that were in nicer cars than my piece of shit boats that I had, you know, they did a rolling stop as well. But then I do a rolling stop just like they did, and I made sure to do it just like they did, and I'd be the one that gets fucking pulled over.
That's just how it is. Yeah.
Well, also, like, I would, my second girlfriend lived in Lindenhurst, Illinois, which was just past Gurnee, Illinois, and so I'd take 94 north past O'Hare. It would be like an hour and 20-minute drive, and I was the only one with a car. And sometimes, like, I didn't have a working headlight, like when I would leave her place, you know. And I would drive through all these towns. And then when I hit my town, you know, at least like I went to Westmont High School. That was the school I broke into. The Westmont police will pull me over, like, you know, like no other cops pulled me over. But then, you know, I hit Westmont, and then suddenly I'm getting pulled over because of the taillight, and it just felt very targeted and harassed. And even childhood memories. There was a time I was a child rollerblading, and my rollerblades got stuck in the sidewalk, And so it instantly stopped me, and I fucking, like, right in front of a parked cop. And he didn't do nothing to help me out. Like, or he didn't even need to help me out, but I think I would have had a much fonder memory if he, like,
you okay,
rolled
kid?
down his window. Yeah, right? You know, like, you all right there? I saw that.
You need me to call you an ambulance
you all right?
or something?
You know? Well, no, just like, are you all right? You know, like,
Yeah,
I knocked the wind out of me is what it did. Knocked the fucking wind out of me. I was like gasping. And as I was gasping for air and shit, like, the cop was pulling off, you know, like, not
He's
a very
like, I don't
fun
want to
memory.
deal with this shit. There's gonna be some paperwork. Fucking people, man.
Well,
Holy
no,
shit.
just like you said, dude. Exactly like you said. Are you all right, kid? You know, like, you know, that I didn't need you to get out or anything, but just like, you know, even those little things.
Just
I
an
have fond
acknowledgement.
memories of cops,
Right.
and yeah, I've been totally harassed by cops, you know, for doing something very stupid when I was young, and then later in life, maybe, you know what the fucked up thing is? Maybe, like, higher up corrupt forces didn't come for me, but maybe it was just the cops, you know, and the police is so fucked up in America that I couldn't even make it past this, like, fucked up video game where the level 1 boss is, like, the hardest boss in the whole game, you know? Or maybe some higher up corrupt forces greased some of those cops to do what they did to me. I don't know. The possibilities are almost limitless.
Well,
there.
if you think about how shit rolls downhill, if you're fighting an uphill battle against any organization, they have so much more on you. They have manpower, they have
what they
time.
did to Martin Luther King, what they're doing to Assange, what they did to Manning, and I'm not saying I'm as cool as those people yet.
Well, I'm just saying it doesn't even take that many people really to conspire or to, you know, organize against somebody and just to take them out or just destroy your life. Because if they start an avalanche of, oh, we'll just arrest him every time he fucking calls us, we'll just show up and say he was being belligerent and we'll just arrest him and create a record, and then people will just stop. You'll lose your credibility amongst people, and so you'll have no way to fight back. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's just inconveniencing you.
Well, they like to think that. They like to think that it's not, that it discredits me. Because,
well, most
like,
people just give up then, you know, but fighters don't give up.
I took a deal. I took a deal for something I didn't do. And how that came about was really fucked up because they put me on antipsychotics. I couldn't think clearly. It was just after the 30-day mark that I learned that I should change my plea from guilty to not guilty, because that was just to get out of jail. And I couldn't think of that shit because I was so mentally fucked up. I was so sleep deprived. I was so traumatized. And then you're fucking feeding me this medication that's making me drool, and to where I can't even think. I'm just like a zombie. You know, I didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. You know, and if I'm correct, you know, and the previous doctors were, you know, with my ADHD diagnosis, feeding me an antipsychotic when I am not psychotic, although I have ADHD and that shares some symptoms with being bipolar. You know, like, I enjoy dancing. That doesn't make me bipolar. I've been fascinated by politics ever since I was a teenager. So
yeah, that's all.
Yeah, and I can hyper focus on things. So it's not mania. It's like hyper focusing.
It's a lot of them can't even imagine themselves focusing, let alone being hyper focused. Because hey, did you know this? Check this out. I learned like a week ago. 1 in 5 people does not have like an inner monologue. Meaning,
really?
You know, I mean, like you.
Yeah,
you know,
I
like
talk
when
to
someone
myself all the
says
time.
when someone says something and you kind of repeat what they say, so you can kind of solidify in your brain what they say. They don't have that. They don't have. Oh, I'm gonna walk over here. I'm gonna grab the door. I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? It's just like, they just do stuff without thinking about anything ever. And so I guess those people that are like, why'd you do that? No, I don't know. They really don't. That's fucking kind of woo. You know what I mean? That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a 1 out of 5 people. Wow.
yeah,
You
it
know?
said 20% of people. That's 1 in 5.
Well, that explains, you know, the racist. just joking.
I mean, it explains a lot of shit because it explains how people become like on autopilot mode and just become completely complacent and don't think about shit and just do. And then they look back like, man, I wasted all my life doing all this dumb shit and I didn't really think about it. Now I'm old and I'm starting to be wiser, and It's like, what the fuck did I do all that shit for? Way too late, you know? And that's
Yeah.
like all too common. That's with too many fucking people. We need to get younger people to understand you need to be starting to think about everything now. Like I kind of threw this at my daughter all the time. Pay attention to what's going on. Pay attention to the people around you. Pay attention to what they're saying and doing. And, you know, if it's not adding up, then they're shady. You know what I'm saying? If they're saying one thing and you see them doing another and that's all you ever see. I mean, yeah, some people fuck up. Some people lie, some people do whatever. But if that's all you see, then that's who they are. You know, what you do is what makes you, not what you say.
Yeah, that's nicely said. If I think you said that correctly.
I think I did. I'm high as hell, but I'm pretty sure I said it. I'm pretty good at juggling while I'm high, I guess.
That's the exact same emotion, though, that I felt with this homeless couple that I helped out. Like, this dude was holding all this, like, funny money and everything, and he's, like, you know, holding it in certain ways, trying to fold it up. And I'm, like, from a distance, that looks fake, you know, like, and he's like, no, feel. And I'm like, yeah, it feels like paper. It doesn't feel like the fabric of money. You know, money is actually fabric, but it seems like it's paper. You know, and I'm like, you're not going to pull a fast one on anyone, you know. But then he ended up like holding a knife in my kitchen, which is everything is just in one room. And I was just like, why do you have that? Put that in the sink. Like I made him put it in the sink and shit. And then they were saying stuff that wasn't quite adding up when they were doing like, man, I really wish I had recorded it. And I have the ability to. I just didn't. I probably should, just in case I end up dead like that one day. But
well, man, yeah,
they were saying something that wasn't adding up. Yeah, they were saying stuff that wasn't adding up, and then I was like, "Look, you guys got to go." And I positioned myself right next to the front door, and I was holding on to my knife in my right hand in my coat pocket, and I have some brass knuckles in my right hand.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in general, because you never know what people's motives are. They could be looking down and out, but they're really just looking for someone to victimize.
Maybe they were looking to murder someone, you know, like
they may have just been trying to rob you, you know, and realize that you didn't really have a whole lot, so, you know.
Well, he was like, oh, you got a nice microphone, you know. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what it sounded like. It sounded like he was looking for shit to take and pawn or some shit. I don't know. Make sure your windows and doors are locked when you're gone. Anyway.
Well, as I learned, my next door neighbor had his door kicked in very easily. They're put into the frame very loosely here with like the very thin, short nails that anyone really trying to get in would be able to get in with ease. Which is like, this address is compromised. Like I registered to vote and everything, so it's. I'm looking for a new place now. And that's like another infuriating thing is I've been looking to have good chats like all year, actually for a very, very long time. Just good, meaningful chats. I thought today was one of them.
We can do this more often, definitely.
Yeah, it was fun. Shit, I totally forgot the point I was trying to make here. But that's us potheads here, you know. I definitely think I could do it. I know I could do it, actually. Like not even, it's beyond thinking. Like, I know I could do this. It's just finding a path, you know, there. And I think like ideas like tattooing stuff on like policy goals, like ending the wars. Like, I know Biden did his little whatever the fuck he did, you know, but a ton of money is still flowing. The military flowing to the weapon manufacturers. The military budget is still bloated. You know, we could be using that money on the citizens, making their lives better, helping them in whatever unique way they need help, with the understanding that people blossom at different times. You were talking about like higher education and everything, and people, you know, blossom at different times. And I was a late bloomer, okay, and then so we need to understand that. Just like hey, it's okay to have sex and not make kids, okay? Like that's okay too, you know. And it's okay that people are not necessarily on that track that you're 21 years old, you should be, you know, a junior in college by now. You know, like,
or you could just be doing whatever the fuck you want, as long as you're not a stain on the community. You know what I'm saying? You're not fucking vandalizing shit, or, you know, committing armed robbery or some dumbass shit. If you know what I'm saying, as long as you're not being a deviant or whatever, I don't see a fucking problem with taking some time off to, to yourself and fucking taking a breather, because life fucking slaps people the fuck down. Most people, when they get to college, they've been to fucking school for 11 or 12 years straight. This shit is like monotonous. Fucking, 9 months a year. What's that? 99 plus...
Like, 280 days or something like that?
It's 108 months of fucking schooling. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think you were right with 100. Like 128, maybe months of schooling.
But yeah, it's like...
I can open up calculator.
Either way, regardless of that, I'm just saying, like, that's like a lot of time out of the year. Okay, so if you take out how much time kids aren't in school, you know what I'm saying? It's a fraction of that by that age. By the time they graduate high school, you know what I'm saying? So
for anyone listening, 10 times 12 is 120. Okay, sorry.
Well, I was trying to do 9 times 12, and then whatever. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That's probably why it was harder, because
I always add one when I'm doing that shit. Like that 9 times 12 in my head would have been 10 times 12, and then I would have subtracted 12 from that.
I should have thought of that, but regardless of that, what I'm saying is, by the time kids get out of high school, they've spent a majority of their life being in school and being taught what to think and not how to think. They've been taught a lot of fucking bullshit propaganda, like especially like U.S. history and shit like that. And a lot of them struggled at learning math because they had to do it a specific way instead of the multiple different ways that math can be done and different formulas that can be used. No, you got to do it this specific way. Well, if I can count to 10 on my fingers, why can't I just 10, 20, 30, on my fingers? Why do I have to fucking write it all out and do all this, dumb shit? If I get the same answer you get, what the fuck does it matter? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I even gotten an argument with one of my daughter's teachers because of that shit. It's like, if I teach her to do it a simple way, like you just said, do 10 times 12, that's 120, and then subtract, the 1 or whatever.
12 from that.
Whatever, yeah. Then you got your answer. Okay, well, she would have them write out 12 times 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12, and then add each one, and then add each one. It's like, why go through all that shit when you can do it so much easier, you know what I mean? But that's the way we teach our children to do it, so they make sure they get it right. Yeah, and that's why they hate it, and that's why they don't want to do it, Maybe give them alternate ways to understand it, because you're making it hard for everyone, making it hard for parents.
Just overcomplicating it,
Right? Yeah. So it's a lot of shit like that.
They're overcomplicating it by thinking they're simplifying it, because they're like, oh, well, this is just a child and everything. But I mean,
kids,
it depends
catch
on where they are
and
with
learn really
the
fast.
curriculum.
If you allow a kid to decide the way they want to be taught and what they're passionate about, they can learn just about anything, just like an adult. Maybe not as deep of a level, but they can still have a good understanding of it. And children aren't really allowed to do that anymore. It's like they're being force-fed Nickelodeon and Disney bullshit all the time, and this fantasy world, but nobody's really doing, like when we were kids. I'm sure you remember, like when you're in high school, you got to dissect and like a pig or a frog or whatever and shit like that. They haven't done that in like 20 years, and in a lot of places anyway. And then
I don't think I was ever able to do that. I don't remember.
Well, it's available to a lot.
Dissecting a frog.
It was available to a lot of AP classes back in the day.
Well, no. Like, I remember, like, having frogs and everything in a science class, but I don't remember actually doing the cutting or anything like that. Like, I don't think
I remember we did the frog. That. Yeah, we had to cut it all open. I think they were already dead, though. Like,
they were already dead.
I don't think we actually killed them, but they were already dead. But anyways, what I'm saying is there's like a lot less of that hands-on shit. Like you were saying, like classroom shit where
Yeah, being in the classroom sometimes helps people.
That
you know?
is the type of stuff I was saying, like where you physically need to be there to witness something, you know, like, and then people get it, because watching a little virtual video of someone get a knee operation is not the same as watching a videotape of a knee operation. You know what I'm saying? It's two completely different things. You get an idea of it, but you don't really get the real idea of it.
Well, that's why whenever you see a doctor, sometimes they got students with them.
Bubble gummed over and fucking it's shit. It's we gotta make it cutesy and sweet for the children to learn. Well, why don't we just teach them nature and reality? You know, that might help a lot of people out in the long run. You know.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought of it, but I was just thinking. You're like, oh, we need to make it all cutesy and nature and everything, and I was thinking of Disney, and we need another thing, you know, to just throw another thing that I would push for, policy wise, is invoking these antitrust laws, because like places like Disney and all these major corporations, they're too big, they're behemoths, and they need to be broken up.
Oh yeah, I think that they should be able to have like sort of like a network of companies working together. Like you can have a film studio, you can have a distributor, you can have like a company that edits stuff, and like an animation studio and stuff like that. That makes sense. But when you buy all the surrounding studios and own all the IP rights and all that type of shit, that becomes a little, you know,
yeah, I'm tired of Disney owning this shit and making everything shitty.
Yeah,
you know, just like the first Mortal Kombat movie. Yeah, sanitizing it, because like the new Mortal Kombat movie I was kind of happy with. I think it was dubbed or something, or maybe not. I forget. But
some spots just had bad ADR because they probably had corny ass fucking dialogue.
But they had fatalities and they had blood in there, and like the whole game is based on like the blood and everything. And that was the problem with the first Mortal Kombat movies, where like there was this like violent video game with blood and fatalities, and then like the only blood you saw was, I think, like a bloody nose, like, and that really took away a lot from, you know, the stuff. And when I look back at it now, you know, as an adult now, I'm like, it's even shittier. Like it's like, if there was blood in it, I would at least find it, you know.
Well,
I would give that movie a little more respect.
So check this out. This is what I think about that. I agree completely.
Well, they're doing it now with Venom. They're doing it now with Venom.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, back then when violent video games were looked down upon, and they were also looked at as a child's toy. Well, we can't sell this to adults, even though that's what it was really geared for, like 17 to 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
They were like, well, we can get the biggest audience and the most bang for our buck if we water it down like we do, you know. And then they did that, and everybody's going to go see it because they want to see it. But yeah, it suffers from it's not the authentic to the world where it came from, you know. Like, yeah. Like,
I'm not saying it needs to be super gory, like there needs to be Quentin Tarantino's like blood squirting out of the neck and everything, like in Kill Bill. But like, you know, come on, Venom built somebody's fucking face off twice. Twice he bit their head off in the first movie, and there was nothing.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, come on.
So yeah, a lot of people don't like a little bit of reality with their fantasy, even though it's fantasy based in a world of reality.
Well, having a thing like that makes me suspend my disbelief. Then I'm in the middle of a movie, and then I'm fucking like criticizing it. I'm like, what? Not even a little bit of blood? Not even on the lips that you're licking off or something? Like,
yeah,
like when the chick bit the thing off, she could have been all sexy licking the blood off. You know?
Drip on the floor, any fucking whatever. Yeah, even some CGI shit, whatever.
Yeah, it's like like the sanitation, of shit just really upsets me because and I don't know why exactly, but it upsets me.
I've always kind of hated censorship in art, and that's a big part of censorship in art. I understand why you don't want to have like a scene like a movie that has a bunch of scenes that glorify rape or something like that, but if there's a scene where someone gets raped, it should be like, it should not be, oh well, you can't have that, or you can't show it this graphically. Well, guess what, that type of shit is real. Okay, so why do we have a rating system? If you know what I mean, what the fuck, so why can't we just have, people aren't going to movie theaters anymore, why don't we just section off those type of movies that have that type of violent content in them, where you have to maybe put a passcode in so they know that you're the adult there in the whatever. Well, you know what I'm saying, or something like that. It's not a big fucking deal. Like kids. Well, yeah, I'm just saying, I'm saying if people are going to be like, well, I don't want to allow my children to ever have access to that, well, then you fucking get the service, enter your passcode because you're the fucking adult. And then when you want to watch that shit, you can watch all the way up to R-rated movies. But if you want to watch NC-17 or whatever, you got to enter the code. What big whoop. They've had that fucking system for 30 fucking years now. But people they don't want to do shit like that,
That reminds me of you know how to tame, do you know how to tame a horse in Minecraft? Episode from South Park.
Oh, I've seen a lot of South Park episodes, probably seen that. I've only seen them really once, and I don't really remember them. I know they're funny.
it was the crime porn one, the information porn. I think, or the informative murder porn episode where they were watching those TV shows, and then one random throwaway character's parents fucking like murdered the wife, and he's like, it was some black guy, and the dude is covered in blood and everything, and he's being hauled away by the police as he's screaming that. Yeah, that's South Park for you. Yeah, Cartman is like the ultimate, like he is such like an asshole. But the character is just like, I've met these people in person, and it's good that they depict, like, they throw Cartman in there for like that, like the assholes of society, because he is a perfect asshole.
Not even just him, Randy, and a bunch of the.
Oh, Randy does silly shit though, like with the Cream Frasier episode and shit. Like, like
my favorite.
He doesn't like get into like racism.
Balls. But yeah. Well, what I'm saying, he's like the Peter Griffin type character of the episode or of the show. But we can all relate to knowing people that are that fucking goofy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that say things that are like, really? Did you really say that? So I don't know.
Yeah, I have a friend. She's kind of, she has a lot of mental health issues, and she's not treating any of them. So and it really shows. And she acts really goofy and silly like that sometimes. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about other people like that.
Well,
I'm kind of burnt out, man.
I'm not really burnt out. I just have to really take a piss, and I haven't eaten anything yet today, so we probably should call this quits anyway. And I definitely can't wait to talk to you again. So we'll definitely set that
it was fun
outside of this conversation. So I'll hit you up soon.
Thanks for triggering like neurons that haven't been triggered in a while. Appreciate you.
Yeah, if you want, we can in the next few conversations we can get into some more deeper stuff and maybe focus on some stuff more in depth than just touching on little stuff.
Well, this was fine too. This was fine. This gives those early supporters is kind of like what I'm looking for. Those visionaries, someone maybe to adopt me, because I have this housing choice voucher that I have forever if I don't screw it up. I was thinking about moving to Denver, but 12 months after I make a move, I can move somewhere else. So that I could use that 12-month period to maybe, find some people online maybe through 2022 here, this coming year, I meet some interesting people because of these chats. Meet some more people maybe willing to help out, or where I can move closer to, and we can have actually in-person conversations, and take it from there. Just one step at a time. I got to do this, and I got to do that, and it's like 5,000 steps or something. So it's all very overwhelming. But I just got to do it a little bit at a time.
Right.
So I'm not worried about like no policy thing, like those campaigners. I just want people to hear me, and then we'll go from there. I'll get some policy shit out. I'm for Medicare for all and free higher education and ending the wars. And even if you're someone out there that could tattoo me, I'm a poor motherfucker. I can't afford tattoos. I would have more ink, but I'm been poor most of my life. But you want to tattoo some policy goals on me, and maybe hopefully develop some trust, not in the purpose of betrayal, but in the purpose of a larger, better goal. To make the world a better place, and that's kind of been the goal from the start. I want to build heaven on earth, because I don't really believe in all that superstition stuff. So, and we make our world kind of hellish. Why don't we not do that? Right. I didn't think it was that much of a stretch to, but and then everything I've received ever since, though, I've been I know the atheist experience made fun of me, but I really haven't checked out their stuff, because I just fucked them off. I'm like, okay, whatever, and I've fucked a lot of people off over the time, but I'm just trying to, I don't know, being ignored and being kind of scoffed at. They fucking especially the atheist experience would talk to so many crazy people, and they wouldn't talk to me for 5-10 minutes. Are you kidding me? Anyway. So yeah, I'm just one step at a time. And, go from there. I'm sounding better. I'm feeling better. I'm thinking better. And I'm still on this path of, and you know what? I've been rude to, that person, Jessica, and maybe this is my way kind of giving back, kind of atoning for my mistakes too. Is I'll test how far this rabbit hole goes. Maybe I'll get assassinated. Maybe I'll be successful. Maybe I won't be successful. I don't know.
Maybe you'll spark something that starts a fire under some people's asses, and they actually get some shit done in the real world. So that's really what matters. I would love to set fires under asses on your behalf, citizen. That's really, I fantasize about shit like that all the time. People like you do, because I'm not really super into politics, but when I hear of these situations, I'm just like, why do they exist? Why can't we do something about it? And why are the people in charge refusing to do anything, and we allow them to stay in charge? It's fucking baffling. So I like to talk about it, at least to get that idea out into people's minds that the guys that are steering the ship are steering us straight for a fucking iceberg, and we're just along for the ride. So
yeah, let's take this ship over. Let's fucking hijack this shit. And I'm down for a revolution. I'm for posing the option. You could either, this is extreme, and in this hypothetical, the French Revolution, there was the beheading, but that doesn't quite sit right with me, because there should be another option.
How about just dethroning? You know what I mean? Because that's what it is. Well, we just need these people to be discharged of their fucking authority. And that's it. You can no longer be a government authority. You can no longer run in the government because you fucked up and you did a lot. Yeah. You did more negative than positive. Oh, well, if they're creating bills that are helping people, yeah, let them run forever. Let them keep continuing and doing their job. Or maybe there's term limits and they have to reapply and rerun and do all that shit, whatever. But people who just refuse to do shit like Kirsten Sinema or whatever, and Joe Manchin and all those motherfuckers that are obstructors, get them the fuck out of there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They don't deserve
there
this
needs
spot.
to be a mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't deserve their spot, and they should there should be a mechanism where the people maybe nationally could get together and invoke an election to dethrone them.
I'm sure there's shit like that.
I'm for naked walks through the streets to Naked Walk to Shame with some old chick walking behind you, ringing a bell, constantly saying shame. Yeah, shame, ding, ding, shame.
Because you're not killing anybody. You're just making people aware of the situation. Why are they doing that to him? Oh, he's the guy that, you know what I mean? He raised prices on fucking insulin and fucking 200,000 people died last year because of it. Oh, that's the guy?
Yeah, Naked Walk to Shame, 10 miles.
Shame! You know, and then they don't allow them back in office anymore. And what are they going to do? They're going to live off of the money that they fucking squeezed out of their constituents and the taxpayers and whatever, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, definitely that is a good option there too, you know. So we need to have some of the shit codified in amendments, and I don't know if that will happen in my lifetime, but there is momentum, there's emotion all across the country, and it hasn't gone away since before Occupy. So but it's been getting stifled for a long time, and we kind of seen a few lights of it in 2016 and 2020 during those elections.
Yeah, because people are getting fucking pissed at the shit.
Bernie was utilizing that,
right?
But people are pissed, and that's good. You know, I mean, people should feel pissed because things aren't right, and that's a good natural emotion to have. And let's take that further now, and try to help people like me out. I'm not saying that, you know, I need everything done for me, but like, look, Trump could not organize a fucking picnic, all right? You know, and he's been totally lifted up his whole entire life, and the nation has lifted up people like Biden and Obama. I could use a helping hand if people want to help educate me, help me be a better me in some sort of sense. You know, if this sounds interesting, then maybe try to get in touch with me, and help, make the world a better place, or fuck off, either one, you know. I mean, if that doesn't sound interesting, you know, then go about your business. I want to try to make the world a better place, because even she used to work retail, sorry. She used to work retail, but on average, I think it's every year, like every American is like missing out on like $2,000, or maybe it's every month or something like that. If wages have kept up with, like, you know, productivity and inflation. But that money isn't going to her, and it's not going to hundreds of millions of Americans.
Minimum wage, federal minimum wage, if it would kept up with productivity, would be over $23, close to $24 an hour. And I think it's like nationwide $7 or $8, what, $9 an hour? That ain't shit.
I think it's $7.25 or $7.50 or something.
Yeah, that's
insulting shit.
That's a third or a fourth of what people really need, you know. So
in the supposed greatest country in the world, or whatever the fuck, you know, we tell ourselves, whatever the chant is supposed to be. Yeah. So I thought this was most productive, and I feel very good. I was really nervous before this call and everything, but I'm pretty chill now. I've farted twice since this conversation.
All right. Well, I've had a great time, and I hope to do this more and more often. Maybe we can turn this into a show or something somehow, or just get people aware of the conversation, you know, in general. So.
Yeah, definitely. Hit up is it T-prescription or T-prescription?
Well, I don't really.
I wrote it.
I just go by T-Rex because it's kind of like a play on tracks, because I make music. T-R-X.
I wrote it down all weird.
But yeah, I go by T-prescription because the first time I changed my name up from Dubious, which I was dubious for literally 20 years, to the day I changed it. From the day the guy that called me dubious all the way to that day, it was 20 years exactly. So I'm done with this name. I'm changing it. So a month before that, I came up with T-Rex because tracks. I make tracks, and the T with the bar. Okay, so then there's the T, which signifies a specific person in my life, and then the RX is drugs. You know what I mean? Like the symbol for, you know, prescription.
Yeah.
So
So
drug dealers we like.
So that's where it was kind of like just a tie-in to I kind of live a drug life. I'm kind of old and I'm cranky like a big T-Rex, and I got a loud, grumbly voice to some people, and my rap voice sounds kind of scary, and I do kind of like a monoxide or Jamie Madrox type of sound, going back to the psychopathic stuff. But anyways, so then TJ called me T-prescription, and it just kind of stuck with the Teeper. I kind of like that. I think I might make a little puppet or something and call him Teeper.
Well, I wrote it down. I wrote it down TEEPERS, and then I did CRIP.
Yeah, I'm from the West Side, sucker. No,
it looks like Teepers, and I was thinking like Jeepers, Creepers. Anyway, Jeepers. Anyway, yeah, I'm retarded. What's that?
All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go here because I'm like probably gonna piss my pants in about 30 seconds. So.
All right, don't piss your pants.
Great to have talked to you, and I'll get up with you, and we'll schedule another one of these real soon.
Yeah, you take care, citizen.
All right, bye bye.
And citizens.
All right, bye-bye. You have a good one. Bye bye.